Chapter 757. The space around them had been sealed, and they couldn't move at all. Yi Qinghan was once again blasted out of the space. Holding the child, his eyes were like scorching suns as he stared at the three people to his left, right, and in front of him. He continuously moved backwards, and even the stable space around him was shattered. Whoosh whoosh whoosh, the space continued to shatter. The Pishio was absorbed into Yi Qinghan's body, and the divine bird had already entered it. How would it dare to compete with these old monsters? Kid, hand Qin Wentian over to me, and I won't interfere in your matters, the old monster from the Z family threatened sternly. I don't want to. Qin Wentian hurriedly grabbed Yi Qinghan, unwilling to leave Yi Qinghan at all. Yi Qinghan grinned evilly and said hoarsely, "Do you think I'll give her to you? You value her not because of her talent, but because of her origin, right? Aren't you the same?" The old monster from the Z family retorted disdainfully. "I don't need to tell you whether I value her origin or not, but I can tell you that if you want to snatch her away, you'll have to step over my dead body." Yi Qinghan rejected the old monster's request without hesitation. "Since you don't want to give me face, I'll step on you." The old monster was white-haired and had the demeanor of an immortal. However, when his expression changed, it became sinister and terrifying. The other two powerhouses looked impatient. He was just a little kid. Was there a need to fight over him like this? Why are you wasting your breath on him? Take that child away. We'll take his life and bury him with my son. Sacred Qilin closed in, wanting to suppress Yi Qinghan. Below Deyuan City, everyone was looking up at Yi Qinghan in the sky. During this period of time, everyone was talking about Yi Qinghan. That night, he had killed thousands of assassins, and his blood had stained the streets for 5 kilometers. Today, he had confronted 3 half-step lords, but he had not said a single word of apology. What exactly was it that was supporting his conviction? The disciples of the great divine sect clenched their fists tightly. Their blood boiled as they looked at Yi Qinghan. They knew that today's situation would definitely become an eternal legend. It would be impossible for a low-rank upper god priest to take on 3 half-step lords single-handedly. Regardless of the outcome, it would be an unbreakable legend. Qin Chusong held Little Z's hand tightly. His eyes were ferocious and his body was trembling. Little Z wanted to hold Qin Chust's head to prevent him from seeing this cruel scene, but he stubbornly refused to turn his head and just stared at the sky. Wen Zheng was about to make a move, but Li Sha kept him in place. "He won't be able to escape. If we don't make a move, we won't have any chance at all. Once that old thing from the Z clan and the others suppress Yi Qinghan, they will definitely join forces to suppress us." Wen Jing hurriedly transmitted his voice. "Wait. If we make a move now, we'll have even less of a chance. Let's pray that Yi Qinghan escapes and lures the 3 of them away. Only then will we have a chance. If we make a move now, we'll be forcing Yi Qinghan to stay here and fight to the death. The outcome will be decided then. The 3 of us won't be able to defeat the 4 of them." Although Li Sha specialized in killing, he was not stupid. He analyzed the situation clearly. Will he be able to escape? Will there still be a chance? Wen Zheng was in slight disbelief. In such a situation, even a half-step lord like him would not be able to escape, let alone Yi Qinghan. Perhaps there will be a chance." Li Sha forced a smile. He was not confident that he could escape from the joint attack of the 3 powerhouses. Qin Yu Great Ancestor frowned. He looked at Li Sha and said in a deep voice, "Fellow Li, I have no objections to splitting the world into 4. That's why I've never forced you to do anything. It's fine if you seal the boundary marker of the Great Tao, but you want to kill my kingdom's crown prince. That's not giving me any face at all. Don't put on an act. 3,000 years ago, didn't you send dozens of powerhouses to kill my divine sect's top king? In the end, he only managed to escape with heavy injuries. In less than 3 months, his vitality was gone, and his body and Tao vanished. Did this old man say anything? Besides, I'm much more benevolent than you. I didn't send dozens of powerhouses to kill him. Yi Qinghan was just one person. Moreover, he was only a middle-level great perfection powerhouse when he attacked. If they were killed by him, I can only say that they're trash. Li Sha retorted coldly. Qing Yu great ancestor gasped. Judging from Li Sha's tone, it did not seem like he was lying. Yi Qinghan really was a middle-level great perfection powerhouse when he attacked. He had crossed realms and killed 2 kings. It was just that he had only recently broken through to become a higher-level god. Who exactly is he? It's impossible for Qing Yu Dimension to have such a powerhouse, Qing Yu great ancestor asked in shock. He's 9 Gloom's disciple and the Lord God of a mythical dimension. As for his other identities, I don't know either, Li Sha replied coldly. The identity of a Lord God of a mythical dimension couldn't scare a true powerhouse. A half-step Lord could forcefully flatten a small dimension like that. However, 9 Gloom's identity was more frightening. That old thing was the real old monster. He was truly invincible below the Lord God level. He could fight against 2 half-step lords alone. Which old monster wouldn't give him face? 9 Gloom's disciple? He has other identities? Qing Yu great ancestor's eyes flashed. Yi Qinghan hadn't killed Qing Shenluo yet, so there was no need to be calculative with him. However, she didn't think of reminding the other 3 old men either. Yi Qinghan was constantly forced to retreat. He took out the 10 direction seal with his left hand and spun it in front of his chest. The seal spun in front of his chest and shot out divine light, protecting him. Whoosh! Yi Qinghan took out the reincarnation mirror. He held his saber in one hand and the reincarnation mirror in the other. He was about to counterattack. Kid, don't blame me if you don't know what's good for you. The old monster from the Z family lost his patience. He cut off half the void with his palm and pressed down on Yi Qinghan. Boom! Yi Qinghan had no intention of dodging at all. The veins on his right arm bulged as he raised his saber and slashed. The saber slammed into the giant palm, and Yi Qinghan borrowed the force to fly hundreds of miles away. He managed to dodge the attacks of the other 2 powerhouses. His elemental body shattered, but there was no blood spilling out. He recovered in the blink of an eye. Yi Qinghan seemed to be in a sorry state as he flew backward, but he was unscathed. Whoosh! The reincarnation mirror suddenly erupted with a terrifying energy, drowning out the vision in front of him. The entire sky fell into darkness. Boom! The 3 powerhouses unleashed their powers at the same time. The divine light crushed everything and blocked the reincarnation light. Yi Qinghan was sent flying by the vast force and couldn't borrow any more force. Imprison his physical body. The 3 powerhouses formed seals with their palms and mobilized the laws of the Great Path. The momentum of heaven and earth was forcibly conscripted, crushing the order and imprisoning Yi Qinghan in the sky above Diyuan City. He couldn't move at all. Wen Zheng was about to make a move, but he was stopped by Li Sha. Wait! It was the first time Li Sha was so patient. If it was before, he would have rushed up to fight. What are you waiting for? Wen Zheng was unwilling to give up. Once Yi Qinghan died, it would be 4 against 2. The Great Path Holy Sect would have no chance. Roar! At this moment, Yi Qinghan suddenly roared into the sky. His divine body was changing. Dragon blood boiled, dragon scales appeared, and his divine body kept growing longer. His dragon body twisted and shattered the imprisoned space. A giant dragon of thousands of feet coiled in space and time. Its huge eyes were like the scorching sun overlooking all living beings. Roar! The giant dragon roared softly. It was so deafening that the blood and chi of all the heroes within thousands of miles stagnated. Wen Zheng held a longsword in his hand and attacked Grand Ancestor Qingyue. He didn't care about the ordinary high gods. With two half-step lords attacking one, the clear moon Grand Ancestor was forced to retreat repeatedly. In the blink of an eye, he was severely injured. It was difficult to defend against one, and the second one was a fierce attack. Wen Zheng would stab him. Half-step lord's abilities were similar. Under normal circumstances, death would occur at any time in a one-on-one battle, let alone two against one. PSSH, Li Sha's sword was as fast as lightning. He and the sword became one, and the sword chi pierced through the ground. Once a high god was hit, he would either die or be severely injured. At this moment, he turned into a ray of rainbow and broke through Grand Ancestor Qingyue's defense, piercing through her chest from the back. Bang! Great Ancestor Qin Yu screamed and smashed towards the foot of the Great Divinity sect. However, it was Wen Zheng who was facing her. She lost control of her divine body and crashed into Wen Zheng's sword. Damn it! You three bastards! Stupid pigs! Grand Ancestor Qin Yu roared furiously. At this moment, she could not blame Wen Zheng and Li Sha. She could only blame herself for choosing to work with useless teammates. For the sake of Yi Qinghan, she had mobilized three half-step lords and left herself to Wen Zheng and Li Sha. Boom! Grand Ancestor Qin Yu chose to self-destruct her divine body. Blood stained the sky, and the aftershock hit the mountain range. None of the thousands of experts at the foot of the Great Divinity sect managed to escape. They were all killed by Qin Yu herself. Great Abyss City's walls collapsed. Even though the Great Divinity sect had a terrifying defense formation, the powerhouses who reinforced the formation's defenses were sent flying backward, coughing up blood. Wen Zheng faced the force of Grand Ancestor Qin Yu's self-destruction head-on. He was sent crashing into the Great Divinity sect's defense barrier, and his blood-stained Great Divinity Mountain. Whoosh! The godhead broke through the clouds and disappeared from everyone's sight in the blink of an eye. No one could stop it. Grand Ancestor Qin Yu's soul had driven the godhead away. Cough, cough, Wen Zheng coughed up blood, but he quickly stabilized his agitated vitality. He exchanged glances with Li Sha and said in a low voice, "It's okay. Let's go after them." Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. The two powerhouses also charged toward the secret zone. There's a chance. Meng Xinghuan and the others clenched their fists. As long as Yi Qinghan could hold off a half-step lord, it was still unknown who would win. Open the formation and save the people of Great Abyss City. The Great Divinity sect master was covered in blood. He had been injured by the aftershock of Grand Ancestor Qin Yu's self-destruction. A half-step lord was on a completely different level from a perfected high god. No matter how strong he was, he could not hold off a half-step lord. There were not many freaks like Yi Qinghan. He had countless divine weapons on him: the Shifang seal, the reincarnation mirror, the 7-foot craze, and the elemental 5 elements Tao constitution. It was not surprising that he could cross-rank. Everyone from the Great Divinity sect rushed to the foot of the mountain to capture the severely injured powerhouses, suppress their godheads, and save the people of Great Abyss City. At that moment, Yi Qinghan was not interested in fighting at all. He could not fight either. As long as he could not outrun the three of them, he would definitely be beaten to death. There was no chance at all. After escaping from the imprisonment, Yi Qinghan reverted to his original form and muttered, "Traceless great Tao, traceless myriad techniques, traceless wind, evade 9 heavens." Traceless wind was everywhere. Yi Qinghan's silhouette suddenly flashed, and countless silhouettes charged in all directions. His original form could not be seen at all. There were even dozens of silhouettes that charged toward the 3 half-step lords. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. When thousands of silhouettes charged in all directions, the sacred Qilin and the rest were stunned. They struck out at the same time and shattered the silhouettes before them. However, there was no trace of blood. Clearly, they were not Yi Qinghan's original form. Don't let him escape. Whoosh! The three half-step lords' sword gleams swept across, shattering many silhouettes. However, none of them were Yi Qinghan's original form. The remaining silhouettes became more and more indistinct, as if they were real or illusory. Damn it, what kind of movement technique is that? It's the witch tribe's wind mark. At full mastery of the great divinity realm, one can transform into countless silhouettes and interpret traceless wind. The old monster from the Z family was on good terms with the organizations that had been passed down since ancient times. He had learned many secrets and even found out Qin Wentian's true constitution. Boom! The three powerhouses joined forces and their aura soared into the galaxy. At the same time, they shattered thousands of silhouettes. None of them were Yi Qinghan's original form. After him. He's from the colossal dragon tribe. He'll definitely enter the depths of the secret zone. The three powerhouses charged into the sky above the secret zone and advanced rapidly. They had gone in the wrong direction because Yi Qinghan was not fleeing toward the depths of the secret zone at all. Instead, he was heading southwest. That was the border river that led to the Greedy Wolf dimension. Through the border river, he could enter the Greedy Wolf dimension and return to the mythical realm. Yi Qinghan concealed his aura and hid behind a mountain. He watched the three powerhouses head toward the depths of the secret zone and smirked coldly. He put away Berserk and charged in the direction of the border river. Yi Qinghan did not dare to fly. He did not dare to alert the three powerhouses. If he could leave secretly, he would do so. He could not afford to be conspicuous. A day later, Yi Qinghan was still in the secret zone. However, he was at the western border of the secret zone. He would be able to leave the secret zone very soon. Chapter 759. The three powerhouses searched the entire central area of the secret zone but could not find any trace of Yi Qinghan. They immediately gave the order to seal off the realm and prepared to conduct a thorough search. When Sacred Kylan and the rest met Li Sha and Wen Zheng, their eyes were filled with murderous intent. However, now that Yi Qinghan had escaped, it would be useless for them to continue fighting. Instead, it would give Yi Qinghan a chance to escape. As for Li Sha and Wen Zheng, they were at a disadvantage when it was 2 against 3, so they would not take the initiative to provoke them. In the Clear Moon realm, every bush and tree was an enemy, especially in the Clear Moon Divine Nation. They had sealed off their nation and their army was on high alert. Even without the Clear Moon Great Ancestor, a half-step lord, there were not many organizations who dared to provoke them. The three holy sects did not even attack the Divine Nation, let alone the Z family and the Divine Treasure Pavilion. The Clear Moon Great Ancestor had only self-destructed his divine body. His soul did not die. As long as there was an opportunity, he could rebuild his divine body at any time. No one could withstand the revenge of a half-step lord. Li Sha and Wen Zheng no longer cared about Yi Qinghan. They also did not ask the three organizations to capture Yi Qinghan. Instead, they forcefully broke the seal of the Great Path of Karma Boundary Stone and comprehended the Great Path of Karma. The Divine Treasure Pavilion was not interested in whether the Great Path Holy Sect comprehended the Great Path of Karma or not. Now, they only wanted to capture Yi Qinghan and bring Qin Wentian back. Sacred Kylan and Wen Zheng could not do anything about the Great Path Holy Sect. They could only let them comprehend the Great Path. At the moment, Yi Qinghan brought Qin Wentian along as they walked through the mountains. They did not interact with outsiders, nor did they enter large cities. They did not even enter small towns. They ate wild fruits and drank from streams. Apart from the Great Path Holy Sect's territory, other places were searching for Yi Qinghan's whereabouts. Portraits were everywhere. As long as it was an adult man with a 4- or 5-year-old child, regardless of their cultivation base, they would be captured first. If they dared to resist, they would be killed on the spot. In the worst case, they would implicate their clansmen. For a time, no one dared to bring a baby girl out, especially those under the age of 7 or 8. If they went out alone, they would be interrogated. Yi Qinghan tried a few times, but he failed to cross the World River. The 3 experts were stationed near the World River, and a large number of soldiers and siege divine crossbows were all aimed at the World River. Once Yi Qinghan appeared above the World River, he would be drowned in an instant. No matter how strong his defense was, he would still be killed and fall into the World River. Qin Wentian was very sensible. If Yi Qinghan didn't say anything, she wouldn't say anything. Yi Qinghan hid in a mountain range and looked at the border river from afar. There was no fluctuation of divine power and his eyes were deep. No one knew what he was thinking. What should we do? Yi Qinghan muttered to himself as he tapped his fingers on the table. Raid their old home. First, destroy a subsect under their territory. After destroying a subsect, we will move to another place. I don't believe that they won't go back to defend. The divine bird suddenly said. Yi Qinghan's eyes lit up. The divine bird suggestion was a good idea. They would attack their old home first. Yi Qinghan carried Qin Wentian and walked towards the territory of the Void Spirit Divine Sect. Void God City was one of the stronger cities of the Void Spirit Divine Sect. There were powerful subsects, and the City Lord Manor also served the Divine Sect. The God Treasure Pavilion also had a branch here. Yi Qinghan hid Qin Wentian in his arms and tied her with divine clothes. He quietly entered the city and said to her gently, "Close your eyes. It will be over in a while." But Yi Qinghan tapped on Qin Wentian's neck and directly knocked her out. The God Treasure Pavilion was located on a bustling street. It occupied tens of hectares of land, and it was unknown how many divine treasures were hidden inside. At night, Yi Qinghan quietly entered the God Treasure Pavilion and wantonly plundered the resources with the divine bird. Even the treasury was broken into by the divine bird, and the large interspatial ring was filled to the brim. The divine bird felt that it was not satisfied. It actually burned down the God Treasure Pavilion with fire, which immediately alarmed several experts. As soon as they rushed out, they were killed by Yi Qinghan with a single slash. Without killing indiscriminately, Yi Qinghan turned and left, heading straight for the subsect of the Void Spirit Divine Sect. It was located in the west of the city. Right now, they were still in a state of seclusion and had no idea that Yi Qinghan had already killed his way to the foot of their mountain. Xiao, Yi Qinghan used the law of space and did not trigger their defensive barrier. Everything went on as usual. First, he took the resources, then burned down the subsect. Experts of the Mid-God Shrine realm and above were killed. The Three Empties policy was to plunder everything, burn everything, and kill all experts. The fifth-grade divine flames could not be extinguished at all. 2 flames soared into the sky, illuminating the world. Many people screamed and fled. The last one was the city lord's residence. The city lord was a middle-aged man dressed in embroidered robes. He looked at the 2 flames in confusion. Before he could react, a youth appeared in front of him. Who else could it be but Yi Qinghan? The city lord did not recognize Yi Qinghan, but there was an unconscious little girl in his arms. She was so young, not much different from the portrait. He was immediately shocked. You have guts." The city lord was shocked. Being stared at by Yi Qinghan, he did not even dare to speak loudly. "Not only do I have guts, but they also exceed your imagination." Yi Qinghan slapped the city lord's face and stepped on him. A majestic low-level high god could not even dodge a simple slap from Yi Qinghan. The city lord struggled pathetically, but Yi Qinghan's leg was like an entire world. He could not move. "I won't kill you, but you have to tell those 3 old things that I can't leave the Clear Moon Plain. I will visit all your cities. Right now I only kill the experts. When I run out of patience, I will slaughter all your cities. I will even go to your headquarters." Boom! Yi Qinghan was simple and violent. He lifted his leg and kicked the city lord's head. The city lord was almost kicked to death. His body crashed into several walls and fainted. Yi Qinghan flew into the sky and disappeared. Before the three experts could react, Yi Qinghan uprooted 3 more cities, 3 subsects, 3 gods' treasure pavilions, and 3 city lords' mansions. He used the same method. The 3 strongest forces in each city were uprooted and their buildings were razed to the ground. The great elder of the Void Spirit sect was furious. The great elder of the Z family was even more furious. They did not expect that Yi Qinghan would not only not escape, but also run into their territory. Yi Qinghan did not follow any path. It was impossible to guess which city his next target would be. However, wherever he appeared, the forces of the gods' treasure pavilions were uprooted. The subsects of the Void Spirit sect and the Divine Kiran sect were also destroyed. Not a single high-level member was left alive. These high-level members were the direct descendants of the 3 old monsters. It was painful to kill even one of them, let alone all of them. Moreover, they were killed continuously. The Divine Kiran and the other 2 finally gave up guarding the border river. Instead, they sent a large number of experts to the border river to block the exit. The 3 of them began to search for Yi Qinghan. Yi Qinghan came and went without a trace, shuttling back and forth between the major cities of the plain. The 3 great experts were completely helpless against him. Although it seemed like a slow process, it caused the 3 great powers great heartache. The gods' treasure pavilions were the most unlucky. They had sub-pavilions in almost every city. In the end, they were scared by Yi Qinghan. All the gods' treasure pavilions began to retreat. They did not even dare to do business during the day. The gods' treasure pavilions were paralyzed. They did not listen to the orders of the general pavilion. The losses of the gods' treasure pavilions were immeasurable. Gradually, the city lords of the major cities and the suzerains of the subsects began to follow the example of the gods' treasure pavilions. They disbanded their subsects and the city lords' mansions were empty. Chapter 760. Without a half-step lord, the kingdom of God did not dare to interfere in the operation to capture Yi Qinghan. Hence, they managed to avoid a disaster. Yi Qinghan could not help but groan after missing 2 cities in a row. This group of people was such a big target that it was impossible for them to run far with the resources. It was very likely that they were hiding in one of the mountain gates in the city. He had to capture them, even if he had to implicate the people who were harboring them. He had to make sure that the people from the 3 major organizations had nowhere to hide and no one would dare to help them. The next day, Yi Qinghan wore a bamboo hat and hid Qin Wentian in his arms. He held a sharp sword in his hand and exuded an imposing aura. For the past few days, everyone was on edge. No one wanted to cause trouble. Even the city guards did not dare to make a sound when they saw such a conspicuous man in black walking into the city. They pretended not to see him. Everyone knew that Yi Qinghan used the 7-foot-long frenzy sword. Who would dare to offend an expert swordsman? Yi Qinghan swaggered into the city. He found the most luxurious restaurant and stepped in right away. "Give me a private room by the window. Serve me the best food and wine, as well as the flesh of mutated beasts," Yi Qinghan said in a hoarse voice. "All right, come with me." The waiter was excited. He had asked for the best food and wine, as well as the flesh of mutated beasts. This must be a big customer. How would he dare to offend him? He immediately led Yi Qinghan to the 2nd floor. In the private room, the waiter did not leave. He waited quietly for Yi Qinghan's orders. While waiting for the food and wine, Yi Qinghan looked at the waiter and took out 10 high-grade divine crystals. He said calmly, "If there's any important information in the city recently, tell me everything and these divine crystals are yours." The waiter's eyes lit up at this moment. 10 middle-grade spirit stones was his monthly salary. 10 upper-grade spirit stones was something he couldn't earn in a year. Important news. Of course, it's about Death God Yi Qinghan roaming around and killing the subordinates of the two major sects and the God's Treasure Pavilion. Right now, the God's Treasure Pavilion and the two major sects are so scared that they don't even dare to show their faces. Our city belongs to the Divine Qilin sect's territory. Right now, the Divine Qilin sect and the God's Treasure Pavilion's branch sects have already taken the resources and fled. I heard that there are too many resources and too many direct subordinates, so they have all gone into hiding. The waiter said softly. Yi Qinghan took out another 10 high-grade divine crystals and said calmly, "Continue." The waiter's hands started to tremble. 20 high-grade divine crystals was an astronomical figure for a low-level god priest. It was equivalent to 200,000 low-grade divine crystals. Furthermore, people who had high-grade divine crystals wouldn't be willing to exchange them for low-grade divine crystals. I heard that they are hiding in the Dragon Tiger stronghold. That's a bandit lair. Those bandits often work together with them to reap rewards, so their relationship is pretty good. Everyone in the city is well aware of this, so they don't dare to provoke the Dragon Tiger stronghold. Those bandits kill without batting an eyelid. A few days ago, they even massacred a village. The waiter said softly. His eyes were filled with anticipation as he looked at the divine crystals. However, he didn't dare to take them. Take them. Go and get the dishes sent up quickly. I'm in a hurry, Yi Qinghan said calmly. The waiter was excited. He didn't expect Yi Qinghan to be willing to give him the divine crystals. He hurriedly took the divine crystals and knelt on the ground. He said respectfully, "Esteemed one, don't worry. I didn't say anything. You didn't ask anything either." And Yi Qinghan nodded his head in satisfaction. There weren't many waiters as obedient and sensible as him in this world. The waiter received the benefits and immediately went to rush them. Very quickly, the best dishes and meat were delivered. Even though the meat was roasted, it didn't lose much of its blood and qi energy. Yi Qinghan sealed the door and carried Qin Wentian out. Gulp. Qin Wentian rubbed her stomach and had an embarrassed look on her face. She said in a crisp voice, "Uncle, I'm hungry. Eat as much as you can. The next time you eat will be tomorrow." Yi Qinghan smiled. Qin Wentian immediately started wolfing down the food. She wasn't big, but her appetite wasn't small. A large piece of roasted meat was swallowed by her. Yi Qinghan drank the strong wine alone and casually ate a few mouthfuls of the dishes. He waited for Qin Wentian to finish eating. After eating for a full hour, the little lass covered her round stomach and lay comfortably on the chair. She asked curiously, "Uncle, where are we going?" "We are going to kill people. Are you afraid?" Yi Qinghan felt a little heartache for this little fellow. She was even younger than his daughter, but she had to follow him everywhere. She was used to seeing blood and corpses. This was really not right. "I'm not afraid. With Uncle here, I'm not afraid to go anywhere." Qin Wentian looked at Yi Qinghan with a childlike gaze. During these few days, Yi Qinghan had killed a few people in front of her. She was already used to seeing blood. Yi Qinghan smiled bitterly. If it was possible, he would rather Qin Wentian be afraid and live the life of a child. "Let's go. I hope we can leave this damnable world as soon as possible." Yi Qinghan reached out and carried Qin Wentian. He used his belt to tie her up and placed her inside the black veil. Even if the black veil was torn, his loose robes would still be able to cover her. She might not be able to recognize their true identities. Yi Qinghan gripped his sword and went downstairs. The waiter bowed and said in a low voice, "Esteemed lord, a total of 15 high-grade divine crystals." Yi Qinghan tossed out 15 high-grade divine crystals and over 100 low-grade divine crystals. He calmly said, "I'll reward you with the rest." "Many thanks, esteemed lord." The shopkeeper was dumbfounded. He had never seen such a generous person, casually tossing out a few hundred low-grade divine crystals. This wasn't some super big city. There were some young masters here, but none of them were as generous as Yi Qinghan. Yi Qinghan turned and left. According to the directions given by the waiter, he walked out of the city and headed straight for Mount Longhu. Mount Longhu was the largest mountain in the vicinity of Longhu City. Depending on the mountain, it was natural for bandits to occupy the mountains and call themselves the kings of the mountains. There were some experts gathered on Mount Longhu, and they were vicious and ruthless. Sometimes they even dared to kill officials. Killing experts was a common occurrence. What was even more hateful was that if a commoner offended these people, it was very likely that the entire village and clan would be implicated. Yi Qinghan seemed to be walking aimlessly in the mountain range, getting closer and closer to Mount Longhu. Recently, Mount Longhu had been very quiet. Immortal Qi lingered around, and many strongholds were in a state of high alert. Yi Qinghan's appearance in the mountain range attracted the attention of the bandit. However, they didn't know that the person approaching them was the recently famous killing god Yi Qinghan. Yi Qinghan hid Qin Wentian in his bosom, sword in hand. The four bandits glanced at each other and laughed evilly. How about it? Seems like his cultivation is only at the intermediate god level. Do you want to kill him? Don't cause trouble. I heard that the boss forbade us from fighting these few days. A skinny monkey-like man with sharp eyes looked at Yi Qinghan's calm and composed appearance. He didn't want to provoke him. I also don't recommend fighting. Let's report back. This guy is wearing a bamboo hat. He doesn't have good intentions. Another bandit reminded. Just as the four of them were discussing, Yi Qinghan had already reached the checkpoint. Stop. Don't you know that this is the private territory of Longhu Stronghold? Scram! The skinny monkey-like man coldly said. Yi Qinghan unsheathed his sword. The sword light suddenly split into three and pierced through the heads of the three bandits. The divine sword itself pierced through the skinny monkey-like man's throat. His life force was completely destroyed, and even his godhead couldn't escape. Boom! The four bandits didn't even have the chance to attack. They had just summoned their divine weapons when they crashed to the ground. Chapter 761. Yi Qinghan sheathed his sword and walked towards Mount Longhu. The four corpses fell to the ground after being blown by the wind. The sky was not dark yet and the setting sun was setting in the west. It was a blood-red color and appeared particularly bleak. A slender shadow dragged far away as he walked towards the waist of Mount Longhu. Along the way, the scouts at the checkpoints did not even have time to warn him before the sword radiance cut through their throat. Their bodies collapsed and they died on the spot. There were many houses at the waist of Mount Longhu. This was only the periphery. The real interior was on the other side of the cliff. There was only a narrow path leading to the entrance. It was easy to defend but hard to attack. However, on the other side of the cliff, there was no way to escape other than to defend. Once it was breached, it would be like catching a turtle in a jar. Yi Qinghan stepped in front of the stronghold and shattered the defensive enchantment with one strike. The door was blasted open. The great Nirvana sword technique's attack was unparalleled and unstoppable. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. Yi Qinghan did not waste words. He had come here today for no other reason than to slaughter everyone on this mountain. Blood flowed down the cliff. There were thousands of experts within Mount Longhu stronghold and close to 10,000 outside. However, their cultivations were not strong. Even outside the stronghold, there were female cultivators and child slaves who had been captured. They had been driven out to serve as cannon fodder. Yi Qinghan gripped his sword and leaned forward, indicating for them to leave. However, some of them were slaves and did not know how to resist. Obeying orders was their destiny, so they charged towards Yi Qinghan. Yi Qinghan did not show mercy. He pulled out his sword and killed. The corpses rolled down the mountain. Scram! Yi Ching Han shouted sternly. Some of the children's eyes flashed with hatred as they fled towards the foot of the mountain. Once the children fled, the female cultivators also began to flee. Hundreds of slaves fled down the mountain. Who are you? My Mount Longhu has no enmity with you. The third boss of Mount Longhu held a large saber in his hand and looked down with hundreds of experts. He stared at Yi Ching Han with a bad feeling in his heart. There is indeed no enmity. You just took in the wrong people, so you will be buried with them. There were 100 reasons for not wanting to kill someone, but there were 10,000 reasons for wanting to kill someone. Yi Ching Han's sword-wielding hand trembled. The scabbard turned into a long rainbow and pierced through the corpse of an expert. The great Nirvana sword art erupted. Along with the profound mysteries of order, it turned into countless sword chi that pierced through countless experts' bodies. Once they were pierced through, the order of their corporeal bodies would be completely changed. They would turn into a pool of blood and bones that fell limp on the ground. Whoosh! A rain of blood fell from the sky, roaring towards the foot of the mountain. Corpses rolled along the river of blood, just like hell. Yi Ching Han shielded Qin Wentian with one hand, not willing to let her see such a bloody scene. With a swing of his sword, he reaped the lives of over 10 experts with a single slash. He didn't even blink as he directly rushed towards the third leader. You are Yi Ching Han. The third boss was terrified. Dragon Tiger Mountain had only taken in the experts of the God's Treasure Pavilion and Divine Sect. Other than Yi Ching Han, who would find them here? Bang! The veil shattered. Yi Ching Han no longer concealed himself. He sheathed his sword, unsheathed his saber, and a tyrannical aura surged into the clouds. It's really him. Ah, run! Heavens! It's the Death God! The area around Dragon Tiger Mountain had long been suppressed by a forbidden technique, so it was impossible to fly. This was Dragon Tiger Mountain's method of self-preservation, but now it had become a trap of their own making. Since they couldn't fly, they could only run. If they fell off the cliff, their divine body would be smashed into smithereens. But that didn't count for much. The key was that there were many mutated beasts living below the cliff, and the poisonous gas was even more intense. Godhoods couldn't survive below. There was only one path, and now that Yi Ching Han had blocked it, there was no way to escape. Boom! Yi Ching Han's saber slashed out, his aura surging into the Milky Way, directly severing the peak of the mountain. The saber in the third boss's hand was directly split in half, and his body was pierced through. The tens of people behind him died on the spot. I don't want to die. Run! Shio shio shio. Some people panicked and chose to jump off the cliff. The cliff was thousands of feet high. Jumping off it was a narrow escape, but if they didn't jump, they would definitely die. Yi Ching Han had no interest in these small fries. Since they wanted to jump off the cliff, then let them do so. They followed the narrow path into Dragon Tiger's stronghold. Yi Ching Han and his saber alone could completely block off the path. The people inside were like turtles in a jar, waiting for Yi Ching Han to slaughter them. Yi Ching Han, you and I have no enmity. If you want to kill people from God's Treasure Pavilion and Divine Sect, then come and get it. Why kill my brothers? Are you bullying Dragon Tiger Mountain because there's no one here? The first boss of Dragon Tiger Mountain rushed out with the second boss and fourth boss, roaring at Yi Ching Han. Yes, I'm bullying you because there's no one here. Today, none of you can leave. Stay, Yi Ching Han said indifferently. The first boss was speechless. Yi Ching Han was too domineering. He had no intention of reconciling. Wait, don't you want to kill people from God's Treasure Pavilion? I'll give it to you. No one in Dragon Tiger Mountain can compete with you. We won't provoke you, so let us go. What do you think? The first boss was a mid-level high god. When had he ever admitted defeat? He didn't dare to go against Yi Ching Han. Unfortunately, Yi Qinghan wasn't interested in their surrender. They were just a bunch of trash. If he killed them, then so be it. Even if the heavenly Tao didn't need him to do it, he would just do it. Kill the chicken to warn the monkey. I want no one in the world to take them in. Yi Qinghan clenched his frenzy hammer and charged into the crowd. His long saber swept across with boundless strength, and his boiling dragon blood suppressed the blood and chi of the heroes. Many people were swept off the cliff by his aura. Boom! The blade light was boundless, and screams could be heard everywhere. Corpses kept falling, and some people were cut into pieces. Blood poured down like rain. The ferocious beasts underground were especially excited. They raised their heads and roared, as if they were waiting for flesh and blood. Any expert who fell down would not be able to survive. Roar! The mutant beasts roared and became more excited. They bit each other and killed those who fell. The people from God's Treasure Pavilion and Shinzong were terrified. This was a dead end. There was no other way to escape. They were caught by Yi Qinghan like turtles in a jar. Hundreds of higher-ups squeezed in the hall of the cave and screamed. Yi Qinghan had already torn apart the corpses of the people from Dragon Tiger Mountain and stepped into the entrance of the cave. Yi Qinghan, you're crazy. You lunatic, this has nothing to do with us. You're killing the innocent. The pavilion master of God's Treasure Pavilion and the elders of Shinzong shouted. They couldn't win, but they hoped that Yi Qinghan would have some humanity. They had brought their families with them. Their wives and children were there, and they even had children of a few years old. Unfortunately, Yi Qinghan didn't have much humanity. As he said, he wasn't a hero. He only wanted to protect what he wanted to protect. Yi Qinghan shook his head and said hoarsely, I'm sorry. It's better for you to die than for us to die. Hua! Yi Qinghan raised his saber and killed everyone in sight. The aftermath killed the weak, not even the women and children. Blood flowed in the hall of the cave. Chapter 762. At Mount Longhu, a cold wind blew and the smell of blood filled the air. Ferocious beasts roared and the mountains trembled. The child slaves and female slaves spoke intermittently. They only knew that a young man had killed his way into Mount Longhu. Many masters took the risk to enter and found that Mount Longhu had been wiped out. There were a few bloody words carved on the mountain that could steal people's souls. Those who shelter the three forces will be killed without mercy. This explosive news instantly spread throughout the entire plain. The three great cultivators roared. They couldn't find any traces of Yi Qinghan, and he would instantly teleport after killing his way to a certain place. It was a situation of retreating when the enemy advanced and attacking when the enemy retreated. If this continued, the three great forces would collapse before Yi Qinghan could kill them all. The three masters pressed toward the great divinity sect and angrily asked about Yi Qinghan's background. They were ready to pay him back in his own coin. Li Sha came out of seclusion and said calmly, I only know that he is a disciple of 9 serenities. Go find him. Gulp, Sacred Kylan and the other 2 gasped. The Master of 9 Serenities was a legend who had never been defeated. He was the number 1 person below the Master of Divinity. He had lived longer than their fathers and had seen the 4th generation Grand Witch God. He was not someone to be trifled with. Damn it, are we just going to let them kill like this? The old monster of the Z clan was not satisfied. The huge Shunbao pavilion was paralyzed and lost hundreds of millions in a day. As long as Yi Qinghan was alive, the branch would not dare to do business. Now that they could not even save their own lives, all the major forces were in seclusion. They did not dare to shelter the people of the 3 forces. They could only hide in the mountains or risk death by moving to the headquarters of the divinity sect. No one dared to offend a madman like Yi Qinghan. When he went crazy, he would massacre entire sects and clans. Mount Longhu had been a tough nut to crack, but in the end they had all been killed. No one wanted to become the second Mount Longhu. After Yi Qinghan killed Mount Longhu, he disappeared. It was as if he had never appeared. He didn't make a move for 2 consecutive days. However, the quieter it was, the more silent the plain became. No one knew who his next target would be. Everyone was in danger, and every bush and tree was an enemy. This was especially true for the direct descendants of the 3 great powers. Some of the more cowardly ones were so scared that they immediately fled their clans and drew a clear line between themselves and their clans. They would rather be wanderers than face that madman Yi Qinghan. 2 days later, the territories of the 3 forces were completely paralyzed, and there were barely any signs of life on the streets. The spies of the 3 parties had already been sent to their limits, but they still could not find Yi Qinghan. It had been 4 days, but it was like Yi Qinghan did not exist, yet it also felt like he was everywhere. Damn it, a bunch of trash. Is it so hard to find a person? The sacred Qilin roared in rage and shattered a mountain peak with a single palm. Compromise. My God's treasures pavilion can't take it anymore. Now that the hearts of our clansmen are scattered, there are already people taking advantage of the situation to rise up and snatch our customers. If we don't open for business in 2 or 3 days, all the customers will be snatched away. The old monster of the Z family was the first to give in and chose to compromise. The ancestor of the Hollow Spirit sect and the sacred Qilin were so angry that they were trembling all over. Not only had their 2 chief disciples died, but Yi Qinghan had recently killed more than a dozen of their subclans. If they compromised now, they would be throwing away their old faces. But there was no other way. They could only compromise. Open the passage to the border river and ask the experts of the voracious wolf realm to cooperate. Let Yi Qinghan fall into the trap himself. This time, I will catch a turtle in a jar. The old man of the Z family sneered. The border river quickly received the notice and opened a gap. The army was very far away, but they could gather at any time. Once Yi Qinghan got close to the border river, he would definitely not be able to escape. The border river was sealed, and the news spread quickly. Many people thought that the 3 major forces had compromised. But Yi Qinghan sneered. He didn't go anywhere. He hid in a God's Treasures pavilion near the Hollow Spirit sect. The God's Treasures pavilion had long been empty. The strong had fled, and the weak had also left. No one would have thought that he was hiding in his own nest. Soon, Li Sha sent a warning to not get close to the border river. It seems that I haven't killed enough. Yi Qinghan licked his white teeth with the tip of his tongue, revealing a sinister cold light. He looked at the map on the table. The Hollow Spirit sect's main sect was 3,000 miles away. I don't know where that old thing is now. Isn't it a bit risky to take the risk to kill his main sect? Although the divine bird was bold, it didn't dare to take such a risk. A great man must be ruthless. They probably won't think that I'd dare to attack their main sect. Their sect's defense is the most lax. I'll set a fire and leave. When they react, I'll be gone. Yi Qinghan sneered. His divine fire was now close to rank 16. If he wanted to extinguish it, he would probably need an old monster like a half-step lord to personally take action. All he had to do was make the old monster unable to chase him. Yi Qinghan sped through the night, approaching the Hollow Spirit sect. The Hollow Spirit sect was tight on the outside but lax on the inside. A large number of powerhouses were patrolling the perimeter, forbidding strangers from approaching. However, the interior was still extremely lax. Yi Qinghan used his space rule to the extreme and dodged continuously, avoiding the powerhouse's eyes and ears. He approached the foot of Hollow Spirit Mountain. The Hollow Spirit sect was confident of its strength, so they didn't even activate the sect guarding formation. Cooperate with me and drown the main mountain directly. Yi Qinghan summoned the Divine Bird, the Fire Raven, and the Golden Raven. Although their attacks weren't very impressive, their ability to breathe fire was not bad. Whoosh! Yi Qinghan soared into the sky, bathed in flames all over, exploding like a scorching sun. Roar! Yi Qinghan transformed into a dragon and breathed out a mouthful of fire. Even the void was igniting with a single touch. He quickly charged toward the main sect. The divine bird, the fire raven, and the golden raven rushed toward the sub-peak and breathed out a mouthful of fire, igniting everything in all directions. Roar! The divine dragon swung its tail and charged toward the perimeter with a monstrous blaze. It destroyed the powerhouses on the perimeter and left with heaven evasion. The flames above the hollow spirit sect soared into the sky. Many disciples were drowned in the flames, letting out heart-wrenching screams as they were instantly burned into nothingness. Tell those 3 old fogies that if they still don't behave, then they can wait for me to wipe out their families one by one. I have plenty of time. I'm just afraid that they can't afford to play. Yi Qinghan left behind these cold words before he left. In the blink of an eye, he tore through the void and vanished once more. The 3 powerhouses were seething with anger at this moment. Half the sky of the Hollow Spirit sect had been burned down. The Hollow Spirit sect's Grand Elder had only just returned. After putting out the fire, the sect was already in a mess. The treasury was almost burned down. Ah! Yi Qinghan, this old man and you are irreconcilable. The Hollow Spirit sect's Grand Elder raised his head and roared. He wanted nothing more than to crush Yi Qinghan into pieces. The faces of the Z clan's old monster and the sacred Qilin changed. They directly rushed back to their respective families, afraid that Yi Qinghan would run to their headquarters and set fire to half the sky. The Z clan's old monster finally couldn't take it anymore. He gave up on the idea of killing Yi Qinghan. Completely open the seal of the world river and make him scram out of the clear moon plain. The sacred Qilin also didn't dare to provoke Yi Qinghan. He was a madman. It was wrong to say that he was a good person. When he killed, he would even kill children. He wouldn't be lenient. They really couldn't afford to offend such an enemy. The army of the World River retreated. The 3 powerhouses almost knelt down and begged Yi Qinghan to quickly leave the plain. Chapter 763. The seal on the border river was opened, and they waited quietly for Yi Qinghan to leave. Although the 3 powerhouses hoped that Yi Qinghan would leave, they did not let their guard down. The hidden spies were mobilized, trying their best to track down Yi Qinghan's whereabouts. Li Sha sent people to the border river to investigate. After confirming that there were no more ambushes, he sent a message to Yi Qinghan. After receiving the message, Yi Qinghan heaved a sigh of relief. He could finally leave. He lowered his head to look at Qin Wentian, who was sleeping soundly in his arms, and shook his head with a bitter smile. He had not even raised his own son or daughter like this, yet he had raised someone else's child. Let's go home. Be my daughter-in-law. Yi Qinghan smiled faintly. He tore through the void and shuttled through alternate spaces, charging in the direction of the border river. The spies were moving at high speed. Although the spatial fluctuations were small, they could not hide from the hyperspace exalted god. Yi Qinghan's whereabouts were gradually captured. The 3 powerhouses received the news, but they did not give chase. Follow him and dig out his roots. I'll pay him back tenfold. The 3 powerhouses' views were almost the same. They did not kill Yi Qinghan now. Instead, they wanted to follow the clues and find out where Yi Qinghan's organization was. Yi Qinghan sensed the powerhouses following him, but he did not say much. Now that the 3 half-step lords could appear at any time, he did not want to be entangled. He sped up and charged toward the border river. The Pishio and Yi Qinghan worked together and doubled their speed. They quickly shook off the spies behind them. Half a day later, they approached the border river passageway. The army was 10,000 miles away from the passageway. Yi Qinghan disappeared in a flash and entered the greedy wolf dimension. After leaving the dimension, Yi Qinghan had no more reservations. He tore through space and fled. He had wandered around the greedy wolf dimension for 30 years, so he was very familiar with the dimension. Therefore, it only took him 3 days to cross the entire dimension. After passing through the passageway, Yi Qinghan entered the mythical plane and headed straight for the God Extinction mountain range from the southern wasteland. Back then, the second sorcerer god had told Yi Qinghan that as long as he could conquer a mythological existential plane, he would naturally gift him with even better secret technique. That would obviously be a main god-level secret technique and a main god-level divine weapon. Now was the time to fulfill his promise. In addition, Yi Qinghan wanted to know Qin Wentian's identity, so he did not return to the crazed manor immediately. Ultimate God Mountain was still Ultimate God. Nobody dared to enter Ultimate God Mountain anymore. Back then, Supreme Venerable Greedy Wolf and the 9 linked Mountain Master's abilities were almost invincible. They were almost on par with half-step lords. However, they had been cursed until they were half dead. They had died tragically at Yi Qinghan's hands. If anyone else entered, they would have no chance of surviving. Yi Qinghan returned without a sound. He directly rushed into Ultimate God Mountain and retraced his step. He rushed into the valley and activated the mechanism, once again returning to the second sorcerer god's hiding place. "You're back!" A mummified corpse stood up from the coffin. It was completely lifeless. Its hoarse voice seemed to have come from the depths of hell. It was incomparably terrifying. Yi Qinghan's hair stood on end. The second sorcerer god had already exceeded his imagination. "Senior, this junior has already conquered the mythological plane and found a child. I can't see through his physique, so I'm here to seek guidance." Yi Qinghan had never been afraid of others. However, when facing this old monster, he did not dare to raise his head and look directly at him. Perhaps the first time he met him, he did not know the immensity of heaven and earth. However, only when he met him for the second time did he realize how terrifying he was. Thump, 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 Yi Qinghan's heartbeat quickened. It was as powerful as the heart of a dragon, pounding against his chest. The second sorcerer god's shriveled eyes were deep, like the boundless Milky Way. It was extremely turbid, making it impossible for one to see through the illusions. At this moment, he stared at the unconscious Qin Wentian in Yi Qinghan's embrace as he asked in a low voice, "What's so special about her?" Just based on her appearance, the second sorcerer god was actually unable to see through her physique. He only felt that there was something different about her. She doesn't have any cultivation base, but she can wantonly pass through wooden doors and metal plate. Now that she has some true energy, as long as she can see where she wants to go, she can instantly reach it. Yi Qinghan spoke honestly. She doesn't have any cultivation base? The second sorcerer god's voice was filled with emotions. He spoke in a hoarse voice, "Wake her up, this old man wants to take a look." Yi Qinghan unsealed Qin Wentian's sleeping acupoint. She opened her eyes in a daze and rubbed her stomach as she spoke in a pained voice, "Uncle, I'm hungry." Yi Qinghan hurriedly took out a divine fruit and passed it to her, allowing her to replenish some of her qi and blood. She was still a child after all. She wasn't like the priestesses who didn't need to eat to extend her life. Qin Wentian swallowed the divine fruit in a few mouthfuls. She turned her head and looked at the second sorcerer god. She was so frightened that her face turned pale. She did her best to burrow into Yi Qinghan's embrace. "This is..." The second sorcerer god could tell that Qin Wentian wasn't ordinary. She didn't have a high cultivation base, but she could eat the divine fruit without any restraint. The energy contained within the divine fruit was sufficient to cause the body of an immortal emperor to explode. Yet, Qin Wentian was completely fine. "Let her perform for this old man to see," the second sorcerer god mumbled. It was as though he was recalling the end of the primal chaos era. Demons and gods danced wildly, the great Tao of heaven and earth crumbled. Terrifying monsters could cover the sky with a single hand, shattering the dome of heaven. Qin Wentian shook her head repeatedly. She clutched tightly onto Yiching Han's robes, as though she was extremely afraid of the second sorcerer god. Yiching Han didn't think too much about it. Who would be afraid of someone like the second sorcerer god? He gently consoled, "Don't be afraid. Senior won't harm you." "Uncle, let's go." Qin Wentian shook Yiching Han's robes. This was the first time she disagreed with Yiching Han's will. "Take away the item in my hand and you can leave." The second sorcerer god stretched out his withered arm. A metal scroll appeared in his hand, exuding the vicissitudes of the great Tao. It was definitely an item from the primal chaos era. Qin Wentian's hands trembled. Her entire body was trembling. She didn't dare to turn her head to look at the sorcerer god. Yiching Han was curious. What was Qin Wentian afraid of? The second sorcerer god did seem to be afraid of people. But could he be more terrifying than a mountain of corpses? She was someone who had seen countless corpses before, but she had never trembled like this before. Why was she so afraid when she saw the sorcerer god? "Wentian, be obedient. Take the item and we will leave," Yiching Han gently said. Qin Wentian timidly turned her head, not daring to look at the sorcerer god. She only stared at the metal scroll in the sorcerer god's hand. She slowly stretched out her tender little hand, and the extent of her trembling increased. Failed? Yiching Han was shocked. Such a small matter shouldn't be too difficult for Qin Wentian. Kakik, Qin Wentian's teeth were chattering. She was clearly terrified to the extreme. Qin Wentian abruptly turned and stretched out her little hand. The metal scroll disappeared from the sorcerer god's hand and reappeared in her hand. She grabbed the metal scroll and held it tightly in Yiching Han's embrace. How could she be in the mood to look at the sorcerer god? As expected, this is her inheritance. Kill her. The sorcerer god faintly spoke. What? Yiching Han's eyes narrowed. He took a step back with Qin Wentian. This was unbelievable. Not only did he not nurture such a genius, he even wanted to kill her? Had the sorcerer god gone senile? Do you know of the 10 great primal chaos physiques? The sorcerer god looked at Yiching Han as he coldly asked. Yiching Han shook his head. What did the 10 great primal chaos physiques have to do with him? What did they have to do with children? Her constitution had a resounding name in the chaos era. It's called the ethereal constitution. It's on par with the heavens and can communicate with spirit. Nothing can stop it. It's shockingly similar to the void Taoist constitution, but there are some aspects of it that exceed the void Taoist constitution. There are also some aspects that are inferior to the void Taoist constitution. Her constitution is indeed very strong. If she's nurtured properly, she can become a Lord God in a few hundred years. Unfortunately, she belongs to the demon god lineage. The sorcerer god sighed deeply, but he still smiled. He continued, "Your luck is not bad. You met the inheritor of the ethereal physique before she rose to power. Otherwise, you might have died in her hands." Chapter 764. The words of the sorcerer god struck Yiching Han's heart like lightning. The child he had risked his life to protect was actually an inheritor of the demonic god bloodline. She's just a child. Yiching Han took a step back, unwilling to kill Qin Wentian. What do you know? When an inheritor's cultivation reaches a certain level, their memories will be unlocked and they will understand their destiny. You might think that you can nurture her now, and she might even rely on you. But thousands of years later, you will be mortal enemies. If she wants to kill you, she won't show any mercy. The sorcerer god coldly said. Out of the 10 great battle physiques, 6 of them are from the demonic god bloodline. They all have the seeds of the demonic god's fate. As long as they have one of the 6 great battle physiques, once their cultivation reaches the emperor level, they will activate the seed of fate and obey the will of the demonic god without any reason. This is no longer something that can be resisted by will alone. Give up, destroy this inheritance, destroy this incomparable battle physique, and let the ethereal physique disappear forever. The sorcerer god said in a commanding tone. I'm not one of the 10 great battle physiques, and I won't participate in your battle. I only want to protect this child. I believe that I can change her, or destroy the seed of fate in advance. Yi Qinghan gave a very certain answer. He wouldn't kill Qin Wentian. Ha 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 ha. Destroy the demonic god's seed of fate? Who do you think you are? Even the Great Father couldn't do it, let alone you. The second-generation sorcerer god laughed maniacally and said with disdain, once the seed of fate is activated, no one can change it. Stop dreaming, this is deeply rooted. No one understands the seed of fate better than me. The Father also planted a seed of fate in the 4 great battle physiques of my clan. When you understand the seed of fate, you will understand that this is irreversible. Yi Qinghan fell silent. He regretted taking the risk to bring Qin Wentian here. Now he understood why Qin Wentian was so afraid of the sorcerer god. It was a fear that came from the depths of his bones. How could he not be afraid when he met the sorcerer god before he matured? If you can't bear to kill him, I'll kill him for you. The second sorcerer god's aura changed and killing intent appeared. Yi Qinghan was greatly taken aback. He only had time to unleash his divine might and protect Yi Qinghan with his arms. The second sorcerer god slammed out with his palm, shattering the void. Although that palm seemed slow, Yi Qinghan didn't have the courage to evade. He could only watch on helplessly as the second sorcerer god's withered palm destroyed everything in its path. Force. The second-generation sorcerer god's aura was the will of the heavens. It could not be defied. His opponent could not move, could not dodge, and did not even have the courage to resist. He could only watch as the second-generation sorcerer god attacked. Yi Qinghan's eyes narrowed as veins popped out all over his body. Even his dragon bones were about to break. He bent his body slightly, protecting Qin Wentian in his embrace. Trash. She's an enemy. Seeing Yi Qinghan trying so hard to protect Qin Wentian, the second sorcerer flew into a rage out of humiliation. With a single palm strike, he sent Yi Qinghan flying. Boom! Yi Qinghan slammed into a withered mountain. His blood dyed the sand and rocks red. His powerful elemental Dao body almost shattered as the aura of death enveloped his entire body. Hoo! Yi Qinghan gasped for air. This was the first time he experienced true death. No one had ever given him such an aura of death. This was the power of a core god, or even a power that surpassed the core god realm. Senior, please give me one more chance. I've brought her to hide from place to place, and only just managed to escape from another world. It's too much of a pity to kill her just like that. She's still a child, only 4 years old. What does she know? If I kill her now, my Dao heart won't be able to accept it. When she really makes a move against me and the relationship between us has reached a point of no return, I will personally resolve this matter. Yi Qinghan knelt on the ground as he spoke resolutely. You have to understand that when she has a cultivation base, you won't be able to control her anymore. She can instantly disappear from your line of sight, vanish from this world, or even directly traverse the world and enter the upper planes. If you don't kill her now, it's the same as giving the great demonic god a right-hand man. The sorcerer god coldly spoke. This is only the worst-case scenario. Maybe I can turn the situation around and turn her into a sharp sword in my hand, a divine sword that can pierce through the great demonic god's defenses. Yi Qinghan gritted his teeth as he spoke. I've already said that's impossible. The sorcerer god angrily rebuked. Everything is possible. Everything under the heavens has a turning point. Since I've encountered her, there will definitely be a different outcome. Yi Qinghan's attitude was resolute. He had to protect Qin Wentian no matter what. What if I don't agree? The second sorcerer god asked without hesitation. Then I won't participate in the battle between you and the great demonic god's inheritor. I will only protect what I want to protect, Yi Qinghan replied with certainty. You have the bloodline of the sorcerer tribe and the 5 elemental Dao body. You even have the chance to develop the 9 revolution Dao body. How can you say such disgraceful words? The second sorcerer god's anger grew as he coldly asked. But I have my own will, and I won't be changed by anyone. Senior, please respect my wishes. Yi Qinghan knelt and kowtowed. The sorcerer god furrowed his brows. He felt that something was wrong. Shouldn't the sorcerer tribe be filled with hatred for the inheritor of the great demonic god's bloodline? Why was Yi Qinghan so calm, even taking the initiative to protect the inheritor of the great demonic god's bloodline? Which bloodline of the sorcerer tribe are you from? Didn't your elders teach you the history of the primal chaos? The sorcerer god coldly asked. I'm not the inheritor of the sorcerer tribe. I just happened to obtain the origin of a female sorcerer tribe cultivator. My body contains her blood essence. That's why you misunderstood my identity. Yi Qinghan had no choice but to answer truthfully. Impossible. Your 5 elemental body. The second sorcerer god's face was filled with disbelief. Yi Qinghan had the 5 elemental body and the bloodline of the sorcerer tribe. This was the most important way to determine whether someone had the bloodline of the sorcerer tribe. Yi Qinghan had both, so how could he not have the bloodline of the sorcerer tribe? My 5 elemental Dao body was formed after birth. I forged it step by step. It's different from the natural 5 elemental body of the sorcerer tribe. Yi Qinghan smiled bitterly. He didn't expect the sorcerer god to misunderstand him so deeply. He thought that the sorcerer god would be able to tell, and that he was the fated person that the sorcerer god had been waiting for. It turned out that the sorcerer god had been waiting for the wrong person. Damn it! I actually mistook you for someone else. The second sorcerer god was dumbfounded. He had been waiting for thousands of years, but he had been waiting for the wrong person. He had been grooming Yi Qinghan as the inheritor of the sorcerer god. Yi Qinghan was speechless. He didn't expect such a powerful existence to make a mistake. He immediately took the opportunity to say, Senior, you may have thought that you would never be wrong, but aren't you wrong now? You thought that I wouldn't have the chance to change the outcome. I believe that you will be wrong again. The second sorcerer god looked coldly at Yi Qinghan. His withered body emitted a terrifying aura that almost froze Yi Qinghan. You were the one who led me astray. Why didn't you say so back then? The second sorcerer god questioned coldly. Yi Qinghan smiled bitterly. He had also misunderstood. He thought that the sorcerer god was really waiting for him and that this opportunity was really his. He didn't expect that it wasn't. Chapter 765. In this secret realm, there was no sound at all. The second sorcerer god was speechless. He recognized the wrong person. This matter couldn't be blamed on Yi Qinghan. When Yi Qinghan was able to enter the secret realm, he naturally assumed that Yi Qinghan had the bloodline of the witch race. No wonder you don't have any ill feelings towards the demon god clan. This inheritor of the ethereal physique is also not afraid of you. You have the 5 elements Dao body, but your fate is not in the 5 element. How strange. The sorcerer god frowned as he stared at Yi Qinghan. Only now did he realize that many things had exceeded his imagination. Yi Qinghan didn't understand what he was talking about. What he didn't know was that if his fate was not in the 5 elements, no matter how powerful an existence was, they wouldn't be able to predict his fate. Even the paramount gods wouldn't be able to do so. To put it simply, he stood outside of the rules and wasn't bound by the laws of the great Tao. Therefore, Yi Qinghan couldn't bear the pressure and was only responsible for himself. You can leave. But you have to promise me that when she grows up and awakens the seed of fate, you will bring her to see me," the sorcerer god said in a low voice. Yi Qinghan breathed out a mouthful of turbid air and hugged Qin Wentian. He was really afraid that this old man would kill him in a fit of anger. "Many thanks for Senior's understanding," Yi Qinghan respectfully said. "No need to thank me. Remember that you owe me a life. When I need it, you must return it," the second sorcerer god coldly said. "Okay," Yi Qinghan straightforwardly agreed. "Take the iron scroll. I'll give you what I promised you. In the future, don't come in here for no reason. If you encounter a true primal chaos Dao body, please send him in." The sorcerer god waved his hand and sent Yi Qinghan out of the secret realm. He transmitted his voice, "I'll give you a secret history of the primal chaos. Most of the events of the primal chaos era are recorded here. Once you finish reading it, you will understand how foolish your decision was to take this child away." Swish, Yi Qinghan's figure flashed as he was forcefully kicked out of the secret realm. A book made of special animal skin appeared in his hand. It was engraved with chaotic divine characters, but he could still recognize them. "Uncle, that freak is so scary." Qin Wentian trembled as he spoke. Yi Qinghan stared at the young Qin Wentian in his arms. He was unable to associate her with a bad person, let alone a very terrifying one. "Don't worry, she won't hurt you. Let's go home." Yi Qinghan kept the metal scroll and the secret history as he carried Qin Wentian and rushed towards the Kuang Manor. Now, his combat power was not what it used to be. He directly passed through the southern mountain pass without alerting the guards and appeared in the inner sect of the crazy sect. The inner sect was particularly quiet now, and there was not a single master. Yi Qinghan frowned and said to himself, "Where did everyone go? Master, you're finally back. Where have you been all these years?" Emperor Yi silently appeared behind Yi Qinghan. Yi Qinghan could hide from the divine sense of others, but he couldn't hide from Emperor Ye's divine sense. She had already discovered him the moment he appeared in the territory of the crazy sect. Yi Qinghan hurriedly turned his head and looked at Emperor Ye's innocent face. He was full of smiles as he stretched out his arms, waiting for Emperor Yi to jump into his embrace. Just as Emperor Yi rushed in front of him, Qin Wentian popped out from Yi Qinghan's embrace. He had a small head and big eyes, looking very cute. Emperor Yi was stunned, not knowing what to do. "Hurry up and call me mother. Your father found you a new mother." The divine bird suddenly jumped out and said to Qin Wentian. Qin Wentian looked at the divine bird in confusion. Yi Qinghan's face was filled with black lines. Emperor Yi was stunned. He thought that Yi Qinghan had found another woman outside and even gave birth to a child. His jade-like hand trembled as he pointed at Yi Qinghan in disbelief. Yi Qinghan grabbed the divine bird and sent it flying with a kick. He took the initiative to pull Emperor Yi into his arms and explained with a wry smile, "That lowly bird was just teasing you. I picked up this little girl. I heard that she's one of the 10 great primal chaos bodies, and is ranked in the top 4. I wanted to bring her back so that she could be our son's daughter-in-law." Emperor Yi breathed out a mouthful of turbid air. He was really scared to death by the divine bird. When he heard that Qin Wentian was his daughter-in-law, his face lit up with joy. The more he looked at Qin Wentian, the more he liked him. "Call me Auntie." Emperor Yi hugged Qin Wentian and teased him. "Auntie," Qin Wentian said in a childish voice. "Hee hee, how cute. You are indeed the best candidate to be our son's daughter-in-law." Emperor Yi laughed. Qin Wentian didn't even know what a daughter-in-law was. Seeing that Emperor Yi liked him, he was naturally happy. "Where are the others? Why aren't they in the sect?" Yi Qinghan asked. "They all went out to train. They left not long after you left. Sister also left. I wanted to look for you, but Yi Kun came back. I was worried that he would come back again, so I didn't leave." Emperor Yi said helplessly. Yi Qinghan frowned. He had given Yi Kun so many resources, why would he come back? Why did he come back? Yi Qinghan acted as if nothing had happened and asked. He said that he came back to look for you. I told him that you were no longer in the arrogant manner and went out to train. He didn't say anything and just left. Emperor Yi carried Qin Wentian and walked out of the sect. The three of them really looked like a family of three. The current arrogant manner was flourishing. Even the entire violent dragon empire had developed. With the support of the righteous Sun Chamber of Commerce, there was no need for the arrogant manner to worry. It was a win-win situation. The citizens benefited, the righteous Sun Chamber of Commerce benefited, and the arrogant manner naturally benefited as well. Yi Qinghan looked at the beautiful scenery and nodded his head in satisfaction. Although he had left for so many years, there was no one who didn't recognize him. Along the way, there were people who greeted him respectfully. Where are Chentian and the other kids? Yi Qinghan asked curiously. After walking around, he discovered that Chentian and the other kids weren't in the arrogant manner. Even Di Longtian and Lin Wutian weren't there. Those kids, each more heaven-defying than the other. That brat Longtian formed a small team and tricked them into going to other planes. I heard that it was some kind of adventure. Longtian and Wutian have both broken through to the high god realm. Although they refined their godheads, their combat strength isn't bad. I didn't stop them. Emperor Yi shook his head. Those kids had already grown up. If they stayed in the arrogant manner, they would be able to overturn the heavens. Sending them out to train was the best choice. Among those who had been influenced by the divine bird, only Lin Wutian was considered normal. After all, his temperament was extremely calm. Di Longtian was also a scammer. He definitely wouldn't be at a disadvantage if he stayed with the so-called great god Chentian. Just as Yi Qinghan and Emperor Yi were enjoying their reunion, the three experts of the Clear Moon Plane found Yi Qinghan's whereabouts. Chapter 766. Apart from Emperor Yi and Yi Qinghan, the rest of the powerhouses had gone traveling. There were no powerhouses in the entire mythical realm. The three powerhouses used a month to find out where Yi Qinghan had gone from the greedy wolf dimension to the mythical realm. They had to be careful. Yi Qinghan had a giant dragon bloodline. If there was a giant sky dragon behind him, he could kill several of them with a slap. No one dared to provoke an adult giant dragon. Yi Qinghan's bloodline was equivalent to an infant among giant dragons. The three powerhouses did not care if he did not know the true giant dragon's secret skills. After many inquiries and investigations, they finally found out that Yi Qinghan had gone directly to God Extinction Mountain that day and spent some time learning more about it. The more they learned, the more shocked they became. Powerhouses were always afraid of death. They found out that God Extinction Mountain was very strange. Yi Qinghan had led more than 20 high gods to kill the greedy wolf Exalt, the 9-linked mountain master, and their subordinates without any casualties. They would not believe that there was nothing fishy about God Extinction Mountain. Let's send a few people into God Extinction Mountain to test the waters? Sacred Qilin said in a low voice. Yes, it's better to be safe than sorry. If there really is a half-step Lord-level or Lord-level giant dragon powerhouse hiding there, won't we be sending ourselves to our deaths? The patriarch of the Z family nodded in agreement. Yi Qinghan had caused a lot of trouble for the three organizations. The three old monsters clearly had no intention of letting him go. Sacred Qilin, and Sacred Qilin led more than 10 high god powerhouses across the greedy wolf dimension and appeared in the southern wilderness. They arrived at God Extinction Mountain the next day. The three powerhouses were very cautious. They sent 3 high gods into the valley to rush into the depths. However, less than 2 hours later, the 3 high gods' faces turned purple and their bodies trembled. The fear in their eyes was self-evident. However, they did not have any external injuries. Even after they left the valley, they did not feel better. Instead, they became more and more terrified. They could not speak and clutched their necks with both hands, trying to strangle themselves to death. Pry open their hands. The sacred Kylan frowned. He couldn't tell what was wrong with the 3 high gods and was shocked. The 6 high gods worked together to pry open the arms of the 3 high gods. Deep marks appeared on their necks. However, the 3 high gods who entered God Extinction Mountain had already been corroded by the curse power. They had completely lost control and were frantically struggling. If not for their divine power being sealed, they would have already attacked the people in front of them. Great Elder Su Ling's divine sense probed into a great deity's sea of consciousness and found that there was a dark force controlling his soul and divine power. The great deity was unable to resist. What's going on? What kind of strange power is this? As a half-step lord, the Void Spirit Grand Elder believed that he knew everything. However, only now did he realize that there were far too many unknowns in the universe. Some powers were beyond the reach of half-step lords like them. This was also why no one had ever broken through to lord level. The old man from the Z family frowned. He was considered the most knowledgeable. After all, he had an organization that had been passed down since the Chaos era. He could find out many things that others didn't know. As soon as he came into contact with the curse power, his expression changed drastically. He said hoarsely, "This is the curse power of the witch tribe. This curse technique has been lost for several eras. No one knows how to use it. Could there be a witch clan elder in the depths of God Extinction Mountain? Impossible. How long has the witch clan elder been alive? It's been several eras since the Chaos era. An era is 10 million years. A lord's lifespan is 1 era. A supreme god might be able to live for 3 eras, but it has far exceeded that now. Moreover, the witch ancestor is dead. The witch tribe no longer has a supreme god," the sacred Kylan said with certainty. "Suppress the curse power. Ask them what they've encountered in there." The 3 powerhouses looked at each other and joined forces to suppress one of the high gods. They mobilized their divine power to suppress the curse power. However, the stronger the suppression, the more terrifying the curse's resistance. The high god could not withstand it. His flesh and blood crumbled. His eyes were ferocious and terrifying. "Don't enter the depths." The high god only had time to say one sentence before his body exploded. The 3 elders were covered in blood and flesh. The souls within their godheads were extinguished. The 3 elders did not feel any regret. They suppressed another high god's curse power and asked in a low voice, "What did you encounter in the depths?" The high god screamed miserably. Blood spurted out of his orifices. He roared in terror, an afterimage of voice, ghost, spirit, unknown, boom. This high god died in the same way as the previous one. The higher the realm of the powerhouse that entered God End Mountain, the stronger the curse power would be. This was the terror of the curse power. Mortals that entered the depths of God End Mountain wouldn't have any problems at all. This was because they didn't have any divine power or even true essence. The curse power relied on these things to corrode the souls of powerhouses. Bang! The sacred Kylan suppressed the high god who was infected with the curse power with an ugly expression. "I'll go check it out myself." Void Spirit Grand Elder was unwilling. He could not be scared off by God Extinction Mountain. Don't go in. The curse power means that there can't be any powerhouses of the giant dragon bloodline hiding here. The curse power can kill all living things. The only possibility is that a supreme sorcerer god of the sorcerer tribe was once buried here, making this a forbidden land. However, I can't figure it out. Why is Yi Qinghan fine after entering? Does he have the sorcerer god's inheritance? Does he have the bloodline of the sorcerer tribe? The elder from the Z family frowned in disbelief. How could a person have both the giant dragon bloodline and the sorcerer tribe bloodline? The 3 powerhouses were struggling. They did not dare to make a move if they could not figure out God Extinction Mountain. At that moment, in the secret realm of the three pure divine kingdom, a soaring sword aura cut through the heavens. The might of the sword Tao was enough to shock half-step lords. This aura could threaten half-step lords' lives. Whoosh, the sword was like a rainbow, cutting through the sun, moon, mountains, and rivers from the primeval times. It split the realm. The sword aura traversed the realm, killing countless living things. Pfft! The powerhouses who saw the sword gleam coughed up blood and flew backward. Blood flowed out of their orifices. Many people's Tao hearts were shattered. The aura was too powerful, too powerful. Whoosh! 7 sun-like godheads appeared in the sky above the secret realm. They were arranged in an orderly manner like a divine sword. It was as if the 7 stars were chasing after the sun. Divine power poured out as if it was going to annihilate the entire mythical realm. The 3 half-step lords looked at the godhead soared in the void above in shock. Their aged arms were trembling. They had never seen such a terrifying sight before. Roar! The heavenly dragon coiled in the sky while the godly phoenix submitted to it. The sun, moon, and stars appeared in the heavens and the earth at the same time. A beam of divine light descended from the heavens and drowned the secret realm. A figure reached out with both palms and rose from the ground. Divine light illuminated the heavens, competing with the sun and moon for brilliance. Roar! The heavenly dragon's apparition swam around the figure as if it was alive. The godly phoenix's apparition automatically flew to the bottom of the figure's feet, bringing the imposing figure higher and higher. It was as if a giant god had descended. All laws wailed, the great Tao submitted to it, and the 5 elements returned to the body. Yi Qinghan and Emperor Yi looked at the peak of the heavens from afar. Their eyes were filled with shock. They had never seen a person break through to high god level with such a great boundary. He had broken through 7 godheads at the same time and mastered all the great Tao precepts and origins. Chapter 767. Yi Qinghan stared at the sky, clenching his fists as his battle intent soared. He had never wanted to fight someone at the same level as him so much. Li Feng. He's truly a legend. Even if he has a mortal physique, who would be able to do anything to him when facing one of the 10 great primal chaos physique. The so-called high bloodline physiques are nothing but a joke in front of him. Yi Qinghan said hoarsely. What a monster! He doesn't seem to have any special physiques, right? Emperor Yi stared at the northeast. In this life, other than Yi Qinghan, there was another person he respected in his heart. Yi Qinghan shook his head. Li Feng's physique and bloodline couldn't be considered good. This kind of person relied purely on his will and talent to reach this level. Let's go take a look. Yi Qinghan carried Qin Wentian and soared into the sky, tearing apart space and leaving the crazed manor. Emperor Yi followed closely behind. He soared into the sky, burrowed into the earth, and moved the stars. In the blink of an eye, he broke through time and space. Out of the corner of his eye, he saw the 10 experts near God Extinction Mountain. He couldn't help but hurriedly remind them, Master, look. Why are there so many experts at God Extinction Mountain? Yi Qinghan was startled. He narrowed his eyes and saw the sacred Qilin and the other 2. His hair stood on end. Were these 3 old fogies prepared to fight to the death? Take Wentian and leave. Quickly, don't return to the crazed manor. Leave this plane immediately. Yi Qinghan said in a low voice. When Emperor Yi heard this, he knew that the other party was an enemy. If he left Qin Wentian here, he would only serve as cannon fodder. He might also become a burden to Yi Qinghan. He reached out to grab Qin Wentian and immediately rushed towards the planar battlefield. Boom! Yi Qinghan raised his saber and emitted a towering saber chi. He stood in the sky and pointed at the 3 experts, wanting to attract Li Feng over. When the 3 experts saw that Yi Qinghan had discovered them, They directly soared into the sky and rushed towards Yi Qinghan. Go after that woman. Take the child for me and kill that female practitioner. The old ancestor of the Z family said to the remaining high god priest. Whoosh whoosh whoosh, the 7 high gods attacked Ren Huangyi from all directions. Their speed was extremely fast. Buzz! Emperor Yi plucked a string in the air, and a strand of zither music filled the air. It carried a murderous aura as it rushed towards the 7 high deities' consciousness. Then, he turned and fled. Yi Qinghan did not stop the 7 high gods. Instead, he retreated step by step towards the secret realm. Are the 3 of you going to fight me to the death? Yi Qinghan asked coldly. Little bastard, you made the gods' treasure pavilion suffer a great loss and killed so many of my sons. Do you still want to reconcile? The patriarch of the Z family roared in anger. If we don't bring your head back, how can the 3 of us half-step lords govern the clear moon realm? How can we explain this to our clansmen? The sacred Kylin growled sternly. Yi Qinghan looked at the ferocious faces of the 3 high gods. They looked like sages, but in reality they were vengeful people. He could not help sneering, shaking his head as he said, "You can't kill me. You can try if you don't believe me. Is that so? This realm is yours. I'll let you have a taste of what it's like to have your organization crushed and destroyed." The Grand Elder of the Void Spirit sect laughed evilly. He looked in the direction of the crazy manor with cold eyes that sent chills down one's spine. The debt of 6 months had to be paid quickly. Some time ago, Yi Qinghan had forced the 3 half-step lords to take a step back. Now, they wanted to use the same method to crush Yi Qinghan's Taoist heart. Yi Qinghan was silent for a moment, then he said ruthlessly, "Do you think I'm a good person? That I would give up my life for the sake of all living things in the world?" Yi Qinghan was not a good person. He could save all living things in the world, but he could also destroy them. He had even given up his life to protect the endless plains. However, he really did not have such thoughts about the mythical realm. If he could develop it, then so be it. This was just a platform for him, and he could leave at any time. Of course, I won't give up my life for these people, but I'll avenge them. I'll truly fight to the death. I'll make the 3 major organizations restless, and there's nothing you can do about it. Yi Qinghan's lips curled up, his eyes emotionless. The 3 powerhouses were stunned by Yi Qinghan's cruel smile and ruthlessness. He would rather give up the entire realm and the mountains and rivers he had conquered than fight them head-on. This kind of person was too vicious. What about the endless plains that you once protected? What about the crazy manor? I don't believe you're willing to give up on them. Try running away now. Sacred Qilin mocked coldly. Yi Qinghan's expression changed slightly at the mention of the endless plains. His voice was hoarse as he asked coldly, "What if I give up as well? Are you willing to let the living things of the 3 major organizations be buried with them? You won't be able to escape today. You won't be able to escape even if you break the heavens." The 3 experts closed in from 3 different directions, blocking the path to God Extinction Mountain. They also blocked the path to Voracious Wolf Plain and the planar battlefield. With the 3 paths of survival blocked, the only path left was death. I don't believe it. You'll know once you try. Yi Qinghan activated the 10 direction seal to protect his chest as he continued to retreat. Li Feng was still bathing in the starlight of the Milky Way. His body had been remodeled, and his combat strength was still soaring. He was 30% stronger with each breath. Once his body remodeling was completed, his combat strength would definitely surpass Yi Qinghan's. At the very least, his instantaneous explosive power would surpass Yi Qinghan's. However, it was impossible for him to kill Yi Qinghan. Yi Qinghan was not in a hurry to approach the mystic realm. Dragging Li Feng into the battlefield at this time would not benefit him. Right now, Li Feng was growing stronger with each breath he took. If anyone dared to interrupt his progress, He would not rest until he was dead. Thump, 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 Yi Qinghan's dragon blood was boiling, and his heartbeat was strong. His combat strength was at its peak. Right now, his only way out was not in the voracious wolf plain or the dimensional battlefield. If he wanted to live, there was only one place: God Extinction Mountain. The second sorcerer god had not appeared, so he could only enter God Extinction Mountain and the mystic realm. The three powerhouses looked at each other. Their divine power poured out and surrounded Yi Qinghan, sealing off his path. Now, in order to kill Yi Qinghan, they advanced step by step. They did not want to destroy him instantly. They only wanted to boil the frog in warm water, reducing Yi Qinghan's space to survive until there was no place for him to stand. Whoosh! The divine light around Li Feng and the divine light emitted by Yi Qinghan and the others was so dazzling that it shocked all the powerhouses. The upper-rank priests dared not speak. They did not even dare to show themselves, afraid that they would be implicated. The battle between a half-step lord and Yi Qinghan was not something they could participate in. Thump, thump, thump. The sound of drums at the 10 checkpoints in the Mad Dragon Empire shook the heavens. The army roared. Although they knew that a half-step lord could destroy them with a wave of his hand, they continued to beat the drums to boost their morale. Yi Qinghan's dragon blood roared, and his aura rose to its most powerful state. Yi Qinghan was very touched. Although he said that he would not care about the Mad Dragon Empire, how could he be willing to give up the lives of these brothers? The three powerhouses laughed. They laughed very happily. It seemed that Yi Qinghan's ruthlessness was just an act. He could not be emotionless and desireless. Today Yi Qinghan could only fight. He could not escape, and he would not escape. You're very loyal. I wonder what they'll think when they find out that you're giving up on these people's lives? Sacred Qilin smirked. Yi Qinghan grunted. His veins bulged as he said coldly, "Do you think I don't have a foundation? That I'll let you slaughter me?" Chapter 768. Yi Qinghan was stalling for time. Every breath he took would give him an extra chance to survive. But how long had the three old monsters been alive? How could they not see that Yi Qinghan was waiting for Li Feng? The three exchanged glances and nodded slightly. They pushed Yi Qinghan back toward the Kuang Manor, forcing Yi Qinghan to admit defeat and compromise. Yi Qinghan had already compromised once for Xiao Zhanxing and Gu Qingyu. Would he do it again? If he wasn't so lucky next time and was reborn on another planet with the help of the divine martial imperial codex, he would have a second chance. Yi Qinghan stopped retreating. He would rather die than retreat. Once he reached the prosperous city of the Kuang Dragon Empire and fought with the three experts, the creatures on the ground would die. He didn't care about the dead, but he didn't want to see the soldiers beating the drums die. Dong dong dong. Southern Fortress, Yayang Fortress, Ganshan Fortress, Northern Fortress, Western Fortress. The lords of the 10 fortresses personally went up the walls to beat the drums. Their upper bodies were naked, and their bronze skin was drenched in sweat. Luo Jie, Lu Zhan Tian, the veins of the lords of the 10 fortresses bulged. Millions of soldiers roared. Fight! 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 Thousands of creatures roared. The people of the Kuang Dragon Empire followed suit. They raised their hands to control the force of heaven and earth, suppressing the Tao. The three experts could see how high Yi Qinghan's prestige was in the mythological realm. At that moment, Yi Qinghan suddenly recalled the move the second sorcerer god had used against him. That's right, it was the Force. Using the Force to suppress others. It seemed slow and harmless, but it was enough to stop people from moving. That was the power of the Force. Yi Qinghan's pupils constricted as he recalled the second sorcerer god's force. His force came from himself, and he was the heavens and earth. His own force could not be defied, but Yi Qinghan's cultivation had not reached that level. His own force could not shake the Tao hearts of the three experts. Yi Qinghan closed his eyes. His divine sense spread out and merged with the violent dragon empire. Borrowing the dragon force of the empire's dragon veins, he became the force of all the people. Whoosh! Brandishing his saber, Yi Qinghan actually mobilized the power of the heavenly Tao of the entire mythological plane. It was like the true heavenly Tao, pressing down on the three experts. The moment Yi Qinghan opened his eyes, the three experts were stunned and didn't dare to move. The qi and blood in their bodies froze as though they were about to die. Hiss! The three experts sucked in a breath of cold air as they looked at Yi Qinghan in disbelief. Yi Qinghan's force was growing stronger. The stronger the fighting spirit of the people of the violent dragon empire, the more loyal they were, the stronger Yi Qinghan's force was. Yi Qinghan did not move at all. He merely pointed ahead with his heavy finger. It was as though he could crush everything before him if he moved. At that moment, Yi Qinghan's combat strength had more than doubled. His aura and fighting spirit had also reached their peak. He was almost on par with a true half-step lord. You want to see my foundation? I'll show you that even ants can destroy a colossal dragon. A gathering of ordinary people can also shake a half-step lord. Yi Qinghan said in a low voice. There was strength in numbers. One person's strength might not even be comparable to an ant in the face of a half-step lord. However, if the power of countless living beings in the entire empire were gathered and transmitted into Yi Qinghan's consciousness through faith, it would not be impossible for him to use this power to shake a half-step lord. Roar! Yi Qinghan transformed into a dragon and soared into the sky. He let out a long roar that shattered mountains and rivers. I, Yi Qinghan, Lord of the violent dragon empire, command all living beings in the name of a master god. I implore you to raise your arms and lend me your strength to destroy the enemy. A majestic voice reverberated through the air and spread out in all directions. At that moment, even 5-year-old children raised their arms without hesitation. 10,000 people, 100,000 people, 1,000,000 people. They raised their arms, determined that Yi Qinghan would win. 100 million people, 1 billion people, 10 billion people, the army roared, giving all living beings faith. Was the violent dragon empire not a gift from Yi Qinghan that made it so powerful? Without Yi Qinghan, they would still be living in an abyss of suffering. Once Yi Qinghan fell, the home they had painstakingly built would instantly fall apart. The home they loved would need to be protected by themselves. I won't be a slave. Even the myriad spirits of the violent dragon empire will not be a slave. Yi Qinghan swept his dragon tail, shattering the dome of heaven and mobilizing the vitality of all living beings. Everyone walked out of their homes, raised their arms, and looked determined. Whoosh! When everyone's faith gathered at the summit of the dome of heaven, a divine barrier appeared above the entire violent dragon empire, protecting the entire empire. The invisible barrier emitted a rainbow-colored divine radiance. From afar, one could see that it was an unbreakable defensive barrier. The barrier separated a vast amount of energy and poured it into the dragon's body, stimulating the dragon's strength. Roar! Yi Qinghan returned to his original form. His long blade soared into the sky and appeared above the dome of the barrier. It rotated at high speed, connecting the barrier and Yi Qinghan. At this moment, Yi Qinghan was the entire empire. He actually tied the entire empire together with himself. Crack! Yi Qinghan clenched his iron fist. The God-severing gauntlet was attached to his body. His body emitted a terrifying power. The God-severing gauntlet was actually activated. His black hair danced and his clothes flapped loudly. His deep eyes were filled with arrogance, and his domineering aura leaked out. Yi Qinghuang hovered in the air outside the barrier, looking down at the three powerhouses from above. The three powerhouses stared at each other, their murderous intent growing stronger. When they saw Li Feng break through earlier, He was already considered a legend and was very terrifying. However, Yi Qinghan had already shattered their understanding. This method of borrowing momentum to attack had long been lost. It was impossible for even a half-step lord to borrow such great momentum. We can't let him live. Whoosh! Grand Elder Su Ling drew his sword. His sword pierced through the clouds and the sun, piercing through the void, and charged toward Yi Qinghan. Boom! The patriarch of the Z family formed a seal with both palms. A huge palm print blotted out the sky, crushing space and time as it pressed down on Yi Qinghan. Roar! The sacred Qilin activated its sacred beast bloodline. Although it was very thin, it was still powerful. Its fist broke through space and time, attacking Yi Qinghan from the other side. Traceless great path, traceless wind. Yi Qinghan muttered. His silhouette suddenly turned into thousands of afterimages, charging in all directions. 5 elements dragon fist. Each of the afterimages delivered a punch that could shake space and time. The god-severing gloves exuded a power that could destroy exalted gods, charging toward the 3 powerhouses with the dragon afterimages. Boom, boom, boom. Although the afterimages did not have much of a physical attack, they were frightening enough. The 3 powerhouses dared not underestimate them. They did not hesitate to waste their divine power to shatter the afterimages. They discovered Yi Qinghan's true body and charged toward the sacred Qilin. Bang! The Qilin's arm collided with the Azure Dragon's arm. His combat bones were broken, and Yi Qinghan was sent flying while coughing up blood. However, the sacred Qilin did not have it easy either. Blood spurted from its iron fist, and its body flew into the distance like a kite with a broken string. Whoosh, boom! The patriarch of the Z family and the supreme elder of the Void Spirit sect also attacked. Even if Yi Qinghan was bound to the divine nation, it was impossible for him to shake off the joint attack of the 3 powerhouses. Caught off guard, he could only swing his fist to meet the attacks of the 2 powerhouses. With another earth-shattering sound, Yi Qinghan was smashed to the ground. His body rolled for thousands of meters, covered in blood. The 3 powerhouses did not attack again. It was not that they did not want to, but that they could not. After clashing with Yi Qinghan, their qi and blood were restless, and their divine power almost lost control. Yi Qinghan's strength was too great, and his body was unparalleled. Chapter 769. Yi Qinghan was in a sorry state. He rolled on the ground as dragon blood spilled and dyed his battle robe red. The elemental body would also collapse. No matter how strong the divine body was, it could only be supported by the realm of a low-level great god. After one move, Yi Qinghan was injured. Whoosh! Yi Qinghan was not surprised but happy. At least the 3 of them could not kill him instantly. Then there was a chance. His eyes flashed coldly as he stared at the sacred Qilin. Now he could only rely on his strength. If he was being ganged up on, then he would grab one of them and beat them with all his might. He would beat them until their hearts turned cold. Whoosh! Yi Qinghan stood up and took the initiative to attack the sacred Qilin. His fist rolled up the sky dragon, and the traces of wind were everywhere. Countless shadows surrounded the 3 of them. By the time the Grand Elder of the Void Spirit sect and the Elder of the Z family destroyed the shadows, Yi Qinghan had already rushed to the front of the sacred Qilin. Boom! His fist broke the void and the dragon roared. It was unstoppable. The sacred Qilin was shocked. It punched out with both fists and divine power poured out. Bang! What the sacred Qilin didn't expect was that Yi Qinghan's fist suddenly turned into a large palm and grabbed the sacred Qilin's fist. The sky dragon coiling eagle was formed, and Yi Qinghan kept attacking the sacred Qilin. Bang bang bang! Yi Qinghan punched, elbowed, kneed, and punched into the sacred Qilin's flesh. The destructive power was unstoppable. The sacred Kylan was flustered and screamed in pain. Its body was smashed into the ground by Yi Qinghan's punch. The two masters attacked from both sides, one sword and one palm. They were so fast that they were in front of Yi Qinghan in the blink of an eye. Only able to dodge one attack, Yi Qinghan did not hesitate. He let the elder of the Z family hit his back and rushed back to the Grand Elder of the Void Spirit sect. Puchi, the divine sword pierced through the right side of Yi Qinghan's chest. Before the Grand Elder of the Void Spirit sect could be surprised, he saw Yi Qinghan's ferocious face reveal a cruel smile. Yi Qinghan leaned forward and the sword pierced through his body. Whoosh! Yi Qinghan stretched out his hands and grabbed Great Elder Hollow Spirit's throat. Then, he punched his temple hard, causing Great Elder Hollow Spirit to spurt out blood and feel dizzy. Bang! The Elder of the Z family slammed his palm on Yi Qinghan's back, sending Yi Qinghan and the Great Elder of Void Spirit flying 1,000 meters away and crashing into the barrier. Yi Qinghan roared, and his fists hit the throat and head of Great Elder Su Ling like raindrops. He ignored the Elder of the Z family behind him and let him attack. If it weren't for the Shifang seal blocking part of the attack, he would have been smashed to pieces by the Elder of the Z family. Bang bang bang! Boom! Boom! The body of the Great Elder of the Void Spirit sect was not very strong. Soon, he was badly mutilated by Yi Qinghan. At this moment, he was still unwilling to give up struggling. He clenched the sword in his hand and crushed Yi Qinghan's 5 elements body. Dragon blood spurted out and dyed the two people red. Go to hell! Yi Qinghan struck Great Elder of the Void Spirit's head with his right elbow. Bang! The head of a dignified half-step lord had been crushed by Yi Qinghan. Great Elder of the Void Spirit's soul drove his godhead and fled through the sky. Yi Qinghan borrowed the power of the Empire's all spirits, but his body could not hold on any longer. His entire body was covered in cracks and wounds. After being attacked by the Elder of the Z family again and again, he almost fainted. You go to hell too. The Elder of the Z family shattered time and space with his palm. He appeared behind Yi Qinghan and went straight for the back of his head. If this palm hit, Yi Qinghan would definitely die. Yi Qinghan had just crushed Great Elder of the Void Spirit's body, and could not dodge in time. He could only twist his body and grab Void Spirit's body behind his head, using his body to block the fatal blow. Boom! The Elder of the Z family did not hesitate. He struck Great Elder of the Void Spirit's body with his palm. Divine power poured out and crashed into Yi Qinghan's consciousness through the body. Yi Qinghan spat out blood. His head was facing down as he crashed into the ground. His mind was a mess. If not for the soul suppression pearl protecting his soul might have been destroyed. Even so, it was not easy. His opponent was a half-step lord. Yi Qinghan could not roll away in time. He crashed into the ground and immediately bled from all his orifices. His eyes were covered in blood and he could not open them. He could not even stand up. The Elder of the Z family was overjoyed. Without hesitation, he formed hand seals with both palms, intending to destroy Yi Qinghan. At that moment, the star-twining vine suddenly shot out of its body. Countless vines covered the sky and trapped Yi Qinghan within. The main vine, along with tens of millions of vines, smashed toward the Elder of the Z family. Whoosh 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 whoosh, there were too many vines. The star-twining vine was going all out. Even if the Elder of the Z family could destroy 1,000,000 vines in one move, it would still take him 10 moves to destroy all the vines. The vines danced in space and time, giving Yi Qinghan one last chance at survival. He reached out and pulled out the divine sword in his body. Blood rained down, but it was all absorbed by the star-twining vine. Not a single drop was wasted. Yi Qinghan lay inside the vine, frowning. The pain was unbearable. His soul, in particular, was groggy and could not heal his injured body at all. Wake up! Wake up quickly, or we'll all die. The divine bird roared, and took out more than 10 divine pills from its universe ring. Without asking about their effects, it stuffed all of them into Yi Qinghan's mouth. The divine pills melted as soon as they entered his mouth. They turned into divine power that flowed through his limbs and bones, sealing his wounds. The 5 elements finally erupted and automatically healed his injured body. Heavenly Spirit Pill, Soul Recovery Pill. Yi Qinghan clenched his fists and gritted his teeth. However, his soul could not control the universe ring at all. The damage to his soul made him feel hopeless. The divine bird realized that something was wrong. It used some unknown method to forcefully break the contract between Yi Qinghan and its universe ring. It dripped its own blood on Yi Qinghan to claim ownership of the ring. Then, it threw all the divine pills into Yi Qinghan's mouth. As the elixir entered his knowledge sea, Yi Qinghan felt a refreshing sensation. He wiped the blood from his eyes with his arm and opened his eyes slightly. He felt like the world was spinning around him. It was not an illusion. The start-whining vine was really being beaten back. At this moment, the sacred Kylan and the elder of the Z family had joined forces. The start-whining vine was almost left with its body. All the vines were destroyed. Roar! The colorful snake and the golden crow rushed out. A huge fire drowned space and time. The Pishio tore through the void and appeared behind the sacred Kylan. It bit off a piece of the Kylan's flesh. The sacred Kylan was in so much pain that it punched the Pishio away. Roar! The Pishio swallowed a mouthful of flesh, but its skin and flesh were torn open. It almost died on the spot. Whoosh! 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 The golden crow spat out a huge fire and almost spat out its origin. It panted and returned to Yi Qinghan's body. The colorful snake was not afraid of death. It also rushed to the side of the sacred Kylan. It bared its fangs and bit the sacred Kylan. Its flesh was the closest to a divine beast. Its blood and chi were very strong. It was a tonic. The heavenly dragon coiling eagle and the colorful snake were too fast. The sacred Kylan was flustered. However, the elder of the Z family poured out his divine power. He ignored the fire and attacked the start-whining vine's body. If he hit it, the start-whining vine would die and Yi Qinghan would not be able to escape. Chapter 770. Thump, thump, thump. The deafening drumbeats shook the heavens. The citizens of the violent dragon empire roared madly. Their fighting spirit soared, and their morale transcended time and space. Yi Qinghan was completely bound to the empire through berserk reset. His divine body recovered rapidly, and he tore apart the protection of the start-whining vine, shattering the void with a punch. On behalf of the Empire, I judge you guilty. Boom! The void was destroyed and a gigantic dragon soared into the sky. The two energies collided, and their auras soared into the stars. The terrifying aftershock distorted the Empire's defensive barrier. If not for this barrier, half of the Empire would have been destroyed. The closer it got, the more united the people of the Empire became. No one was willing to let go, and all of them poured their divine power into the barrier. Bang! Yi Qinghan and the old man from the Z family were shattered. Blood dyed the heavens as they flew backward for more than 1,000 meters. Yi Qinghan, in particular, flew backward in the air, completely out of control. Fire Crow transformed into a gigantic firebird and caught Yi Qinghan, but it still could not stop the momentum. Both of them were sent flying into the distance. The old man from the Z family spat out a mouthful of blood essence. His aura had dimmed significantly, and his eyes were bloodshot. The divine power in his body had gone out of control. It was as though his palm had landed on a lord, and he could not stop trembling. Yi Qinghan was carrying the entire kingdom of God against one person at the moment. The fact that both of them were injured was enough to prove that the old man from the Z family's strength was truly extraordinary. He was going against the entire empire alone. The violent dragon empire occupied more than half of the mythical plane's territory. They had an uncountable number of people, and there were not many high gods. In fact, there were no more than 3 to 5 of them. However, there were countless powerhouses in the middle god temple. When everyone's faith was gathered together, it was enough to defy the heavens. Yi Qinghan was the only one who could do such a thing, to bind the entire empire together to fight against half-step lords. Bang! Yi Qinghan and Fire Crow crashed into a mountain. Fire Crow took most of the impact for Yi Qinghan, and it almost exploded on the spot. At that moment, the sacred Qilin did not hesitate to hurt itself and landed a punch on its body. Not only was it injured, but the colorful snake was also sent flying, and blood and flesh splattered everywhere. Boom! The sacred Qilin was furious. Without asking Yi Qinghan, it smashed the colorful snake into the ground. It was almost smashed into a bloody mess. Just as the sacred Qilin was about to kill the colorful snake, the Pishio flashed and took the colorful snake with its mouth. It disappeared from the space. Damn bastard! I'll kill your master. Let's see how long you can live. The sacred Qilin roared and turned its head to look at the mountain Yi Qinghan had crashed into. It stomped on the ground and rushed to the peak of the mountain. It looked down from above and smashed the mountain with one palm. It wanted to crush Yi Qinghan to death at the bottom of the mountain. Master, run! Fire Crow transformed into a human and used all its strength to throw Yi Qinghan out of the mountain. However, the mountain collapsed and crushed it into powder, crashing into the ground. Yi Qinghan rolled on the ground. He was already exhausted. His soul and body were in the weakest state. No matter how much power the Empire sent to him, it was not enough to heal his body and soul. Seeing Fire Crow die for him, he was furious. His fingers pierced through the mountain. 10 directions returned to 1, suppress. The 10 directions seal rushed out of his body and covered the sky, smashing towards the sacred Qilin. Bang! The sacred Qilin was extremely strong. It was actually in a stalemate with the 10 directions seal. It was using its deepest strength to suppress the other party. Kill him! Him! The sacred Qilin roared at the elder of the Z family. The sacred Qilin could not move. Yi Qinghan could not move either. If anyone moved, they would be suppressed by the 10 directions seal. Even though the 10 directions seal was Yi Qinghan's divine weapon, it had been used to its fullest. No one could escape from it. A sharp sword suddenly appeared in the elder of the Z family's hand. He slashed through the air, aiming for Yi Qinghan's body. Yi Qinghan felt the threat of death. The sword qi had already entered his body. If he did not dodge, he would definitely be killed by the elder of the Z family. However, if he dodged, the sacred Qilin would take control of the 10 directions seal. At that time, the sacred Qilin could still suppress him. There was no time to think. He could only resist. At this moment, the divine bird suddenly dragged the reincarnation mirror behind Yi Qinghan and roared, "If I don't show my power, you won't treat me as the divine emperor of all beasts?" Whoosh! A beam of black light engulfed everything. It swallowed the sword qi and blasted towards the elder of the Z family. The elder of the Z family only had time to use his divine power to block the light of destruction. However, he was blown away by the force. He flew thousands of meters in the air before coming to a stop. Ouch! F***ck. My divine power is gone. The divine bird did not have much divine power left. It could only support this attack. It did not kill the elder of the Z family. Instead, its own divine power was completely used up. It fell from Yi Qinghan's shoulder to the ground. Fortunately, there was the divine bird. Yi Qinghan breathed out a mouthful of turbid air. The pressure was greatly reduced. With a twist of his toes, the god-breaking boxing glove was fully activated. He pushed the 10 directions seal dozens of meters away from the sacred Qilin. The sacred Qilin was forced to retreat. The pressure was increasing. Screech. Just as the two sides were in a stalemate, Li Feng, who was in the air above the secret realm, grabbed the Sword of Godhead and unleashed the sky-splitting strike. The sword Qi shattered the realm and blasted towards the elder of the Z family. The elder of the Z family was suddenly attacked by the divine bird. His Qi and blood were not flowing smoothly. At this moment, Li Feng's sword was slashing towards him. He did not have much strength to resist. If he could not resist, he could only dodge. Whoosh! The elder of the Z family fled thousands of meters away. He stood outside God Extinction Mountain and used a moment to adjust his breathing. He finally stabilized his qi and blood. He coldly looked at Li Feng coming with the sword. "Fellow cultivator, this matter has nothing to do with you," the elder of the Z family warned coldly. "It has something to do with me in the mythical realm. Are you going to scram, or do you want me to beat you until you scram?" Li Feng stepped forward aggressively. The godhead entered his body. The sharp sword in his hand was ready to be unsheathed at any time. The sword's whistling sound shook thousands of miles away. The elder of the Z family was stopped by Li Feng. Yi Qinghan's tense divine sense finally relaxed. The soul of the great elder of the Hollow Spirit sect had escaped. If he wanted to reconstruct the body, it would be difficult to do so without thousands of years. Just like ancestor Qingyu, he was no longer a threat to Yi Qinghan. Now only the sacred Qilin was left. Even if he could not kill him, he could protect himself. Screech! Li Feng descended on the battlefield. His fingertips moved the hilt of his sword. The sword Qi cut through the void and let out a crisp sword whistle. The elder of the Z family was not stable after being hit by Yi Qinghan's continuous punches. At this time, he had no chance of winning against Li Feng. Li Feng was another existence comparable to Yi Qinghan. He was even stronger than Yi Qinghan. Such an existence who relied on a mortal body to become a legend was terrifying. The elder of the Z family saw that he had lost his chance. The sacred Qilin did not have much of an advantage against Yi Qinghan. He knew that today's plan had failed. He could not help but groan. "Let's go." The sacred Qilin unleashed its divine power and deflected the 10-direction seal, flattening a mountain range. It followed the elder of the Z family and fled to the southern wilderness. They escaped from the greedy wolf dimension back to the clear moon dimension. Yi Qinghan was powerless to chase after them. At this moment, he was truly at the end of his rope. If it were not for the kingdom of all spirits lending him power, he would not even be able to defeat a half-step lord, let alone one against 3 and cripple the great elder of the Hollow Spirit sect. Boom! Yi Qinghan knelt on the ground. He supported himself with both hands and panted. He could not even speak a word. Chapter 771. Yi Qinghan was very tired, so tired that he couldn't even lift his hand. A lesser god could kill him. His spiritual pet, Fire Crow, was dead. The multicolored snake was heavily injured. The Pishio was also injured. The divine bird's divine power was exhausted. It was lying on the ground, motionless. Li Feng looked at Yi Qinghan. After a moment of silence, he asked, "What happened all these years? Where did those 3 people come from?" Back then, when the matter of us killing the elders and disciples of 9-linked mountain was exposed, Shangqing drew a clear line between himself and you in order to clear his name. He then joined forces with 9-linked mountain's lord and exalted Greedwolf, and joined forces with the 4 armies of the planar battlefield to suppress my crazed manner. I killed Shangqing, destroyed 3 clear divine kingdom, and destroyed 9-linked mountain. As for those 3 people just now, they were from the clear moon plane. They came for a child, and most importantly, they wanted to kill me. Li Feng was silent again. He saved Shangqing back then. He didn't expect to be abandoned in the end. A person could only be forgiven once. I understand. Take care of yourself. The next time we meet, I will attack you. I hope you don't disappoint me. Li Feng finished speaking and walked towards the planar battlefield with his sword in hand. He walked further and further away until his figure gradually disappeared. Yi Qinghan was silent. Li Feng was an opponent worthy of respect. If it were anyone else, they would have taken the opportunity to kill Yi Qinghan. There was no need to leave a problem for themselves. However, Li Feng didn't do anything. He only wanted to prove the supreme Tao in his heart. The true legendary Tao. No one could go against him. No one could be taken seriously by him. Yeyang Pass and Dongling Pass opened. The army rushed towards Yi Qinghan. The divine bird straightened its legs. Its body was stiff. It opened its eyes and said, "This divine bird was scared to death. I thought I couldn't escape this time." Yi Qinghan's 5 fingers pierced through the rock, and he looked up at the collapsed mountain peak. He knew that the fire crow would not appear again. It was a spiritual pet that had followed him for close to 1,000 years. Although it was not as capable as the colorful snake or the god-slaying eagle, it had sacrificed its life for him. "I will definitely avenge you." Yi Qinghan's entire body tensed up. His injured body ruptured once again and blood flowed out. The Pai Xiu brought the multicolored snake back. There were a few bloody holes on its body and it almost died. The multicolored snake in its mouth was badly mutilated and its breath was weak. It almost had no life force. The start-whining vine was even more miserable. Its entire body was bare and all its vines were destroyed. Now it couldn't even stretch out a single main vine. "First, give each of them a divine pellet to hang on to their lives and carry me back." Yi Qinghan fell to the ground, without the slightest bit of strength. Right now, he didn't even have the strength to speak. Lu Zhantian brought a group of elites over and placed Yi Qinghan, Pai Xiu, and the other divine beasts beside Yi Qinghan before flying straight to Kuang Manor. In the dimensional battlefield, Emperor Yi carried Qin Wentian and fled frantically. Occasionally, he would attack the souls of the 7 people to buy time and increase the distance between them. However, the 7 experts pursued relentlessly, unaware that one of the 3 half-step sovereigns had already been injured and 2 had fled. Qin Wentian hugged Emperor Ye's neck, her eyes filled with fear. She didn't understand why they were chasing after her and trying to kill her. Now, she could only rely on Emperor Yi. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. 8 figures flew into the sky and burrowed into the ground. The various armies on the dimensional battlefield didn't dare to stop them. After all, the 8 high gods were all top-notch experts. The armies couldn't stop them. Yi Qinghan was now powerless to support Emperor Yi. The other soldiers couldn't interfere in the battle between the high gods. The inner sect was empty. Emperor Yi could only run for his life and enter the desert dimension. This was a wasteland. The people here were tough and strong. However, there were very few resources and many dangerous places. It wasn't a suitable place for survival. Emperor Yi patted Qin Wentian and comforted her gently, "Don't be afraid. We'll go look for reinforcements." Di Longtian and Lin Wutian were leading a group of children to the forest origin dimension. That place was full of vitality and opportunities. They were all of the younger generation. There were no supreme existences to make things difficult for them. They had a smooth time playing around for more than 30 years. The children had all grown up. Yi Chentian was the first to become a high god. He was only 30 years old. For a cultivator, 30 years old was equivalent to 7 or 8 years old for a mortal. He was absolutely terrifying, as expected of someone who called himself Great God Chentian. He was arrogant and domineering. He was even more arrogant than Yi Qinghan. Now that he had become a man, he was very mighty. Di Longtian and Yi Chuntian had been influenced by the divine bird since they were young. They were both extremely intelligent people. Their little calculations came one after another. Their slogan was, "Everything is for resources." More than 30 children had been brought out by Di Longtian and Lin Wutian since they were 7 or 8 years old. With their current combat strength, it was easy for them to join forces and eliminate a few high god. Especially the existence known as Great God Chuntian. His combat strength was probably not inferior to the older generation. The distance between the forest origin dimension and the desert dimension was only a matter of a border river. Emperor Yi had long known that they were there. Hence, he had a clear goal. He crossed the desert dimension and the border river, rushing into the forest origin dimension. During this time, he was almost surrounded several times. The 7 of them were still chasing after him. They were running out of godly energy, and could only rely on godly medicines to sustain themselves. Emperor Yi had 2 godhoods, so his consumption rate was half of the others. In addition, the godly medicines in his possession were all top-notch tier 15. It was possible for him to exhaust these high gods to death. After fleeing for half a month, Emperor Yi disappeared into the depths of a mountain range. The 7 great powerhouses followed closely behind him. They did not even bother to check if there were any powerhouses in the forest source dimension. When it came to the strength of dimensions, the clear moon dimension was considered one of the most powerful dimensions among the middle dimensions. Relying on the 3 great half-step lords, they were absolutely fearless. Di Longtian and more than 30 people were currently in this mountain range. This mountain range was very famous. It was equivalent to a secret zone in the clear moon dimension. Divine energy filled the air, and there were divinity crystal mines everywhere. However, it was also very dangerous. There were too many mutated divine beasts. Usually, no one would come here. Di Longtian and his group were the first to come here. This was because there were not many powerhouses in the forest origin dimension. Buzz, a strand of zither music filled the air. It rushed into the depths of the secret zone and startled countless wild beasts. Emperor Yi was warning them. He was asking for help. Di Longtian and Lin Wutian were stunned. This strand of zither music was too familiar. "Why is my mother here?" Yi Chuntian asked in surprise. "Go back to help, idiot." Di Longtian roared and transformed into a dragon coiling in the sky, rushing outside. Lin Wutian led a group of juniors and also rushed out. They drew their swords and were ready to fight. More than 30 juniors were all inner sect disciples. Their parents' excellent bloodlines had long been passed down. Their secret techniques were even more advanced. They never lacked resources. How could their combat strength be weak? Whoosh whoosh whoosh. More than 30 silhouettes shuttled back and forth in the sky above the forest, chasing each other. They quickly rushed to the central region and met up with Ren Huangyi. When they saw that Ren Huangyi was actually carrying a child in his arms, they were very astonished. They couldn't understand where this 4 or 5-year-old brat had come from. "Mother, what's wrong?" Yi Chuntian asked curiously. 7 high gods, prepare for battle." Emperor Yi carried Qin Wentian to Yi Chuntian's neck and instructed, "This is your wife. Protect her well. It's fine if you lose an arm or a leg, but don't hurt her." Chapter 772. Wife? Yi Chuntian was confused. Since when did he have a wife? And she was so young. She probably needed someone to feed her. Everyone burst into laughter. Looking at the confused Qin Wentian, they laughed even more crazily. At this moment, even the silent Lin Wutian's mouth twitched. He couldn't help but laugh. This cheap wife had come too suddenly. Yi Chuntian couldn't get used to it, and neither could the others. They had completely ignored the arrival of the 7 supreme gods. Void God Yi and Yi Yun'er looked at each other. Since when did they have a sister-in-law? And she was so young. Looking at her mother's reaction, it didn't seem fake. Your father arranged a marriage for you. Protect her well. If anything happens to her, your father will break your legs. Emperor Yi took a deep breath and called out the Emperor's zither. He adjusted the music and prepared for a fight to the death. At this time, everyone was on high alert. Di Longtian and Lin Wutian looked at each other and flew to two sides of a valley. They held their swords and looked into the distance. Outside the valley, 7 figures were rushing quickly. Spread out. Yi Chuntian, as the king of the children, had a lot of prestige. With a wave of his hand, more than 30 youths spread out and cast a big net, waiting for the fish to fall into it. 1. Emperor Yi played the zither, and a murderous aura spread out, shaking people's hearts. The entire valley was filled with killing intent. The 7 high gods were disdainful. Emperor Yi had hurriedly escaped from the mythological realm. Could it be that he could predict the future and set up a trap here in advance? Even if he set up a trap here, what could the 7 high gods do? Therefore, the 7 high gods were extremely powerful. They emitted a powerful aura that startled countless wild beasts and birds, causing them to flee in all directions. Hum, hum, hum. The music suddenly changed and became manic. Even the high gods couldn't control it and had to suppress it. This was Emperor Ye's personal music. When the children heard her music, they didn't feel any pressure. Instead, they felt their blood boil. However, the 7 high gods were different. Their expressions changed, and they felt their blood rushing to their heads. Their divine power was agitated, causing their blood to run wildly. They were about to explode. Humph! You don't know life from death. Hand over the child and I'll let you die in one piece. Who is it? Come out. A high god noticed the group of youths and immediately pulled out his sword. Di Longtian and Lin Wutian burst forth at the same time. Sword chi pierced through the mountains and rivers. Great Nirvana sword art. The two of them were as fast as lightning. The 7 high gods had discovered Void God Yi and the others, but they did not realize that there were 2 high gods hiding behind them. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. Di Longtian's heavenly Dao killing god sword was not inferior to Lin Wutian's solitary sword Dao. He slashed out 3 sword rays and pierced through the bodies of 2 high gods. The sword chi was extremely sharp and directly erased the vitality of the 2 experts. In the blink of an eye, the 2 high gods had been killed, and only one was left. The remaining high gods were shocked, and they hurriedly attacked Lin Wutian and Di Longtian, wanting to kill the 2 high gods. At this moment, Yi Chuntian activated the 5 elements and brought Qin Wentian down from a tree. His qi energy destroyed everything in its path, shattering the rocks on the ground. Is great god Qin Tian's mother someone trash like you dare to profane? Boom! Yi Chuntian's fist directly smashed the head of a high god into his stomach. Fresh blood splattered everywhere. Qin Wentian was so frightened that his face turned pale. He immediately buried his face in Yi Chuntian's hair. Bang! God power poured into the high god's body, shattering his bones. His godhead was directly grasped in Yi Chuntian's hand. This was Yi Qinghan's son, great god Qin Tian. After killing a high god, he raised his beautiful hair and said disdainfully, I, great god Qin Tian, have always been invincible. I haven't met a worthy opponent in 30 years. Small shrimps like you can't even withstand a single blow. In the blink of an eye, there were only 4 high gods left. More than 30 young men and women rushed out in groups of 10. Each group had their own division of offense and defense. This was especially true for the heavenly sword body, which was born with a sword. Although he had yet to break through to the high god level, his battle prowess could cross realms. His sword was even better than his own hand. His battle prowess was actually comparable to Yi Qinghan's when he was young. With Emperor Ye's support, the 30 young experts were incomparably powerful. In the blink of an eye, the 4 high gods were suppressed. The 7 high gods didn't even last for the time it takes an incense stick to burn before dying. Not bad, ha ha. Di Longtian laughed loudly. Before long, his ancient massacre god would have 7 more experts. Emperor Yi wasn't in a good mood. He stood up with his guqin and said in a low voice, "Follow me home immediately." When I escaped, 3 half-step lords surrounded Master. I don't know what's going on now. What? Half-step lords surrounded him? Yi Chentian, Yi Shushan, and his sister were shocked. Yi Qinghan was their spiritual pillar. They saw him as a hero. Di Longtian's feelings for Yi Qinghan were no less than Yi Chentian's. In fact, his feelings for Yi Qinghan were even deeper than the 3 siblings. This was because Yi Qinghan had never raised the 3 children. However, Di Longtian had grown up with Yi Qinghan. Roar! Di Longtian summoned the heavenly dragon within him and roared at everyone, "Follow me and kill!" More than 30 people rushed onto the dragon and soared into the sky with Di Longtian. They crossed realms and charged toward the desert realm. At that moment, Yi Qinghan had been bedridden for half a month. His divine body was severely damaged, and it was difficult for him to recover quickly in one go. The divine bird had merely exhausted its divine power. It would be alive and kicking after a day. However, Fire Crow had died tragically, and the star-twining vine and the rainbow snake were severely injured. It was as if a rock was stuck in Yi Qinghan's throat. He could not swallow this resentment. At that moment, Roger was guarding by Yi Qinghan's side, not leaving his side at all. "Have you found out where Huang is?" Yi Qinghan asked in a low voice. "Master, according to our intelligence, Madam has already passed through the desert realm and entered the forest realm. As far as I know, young Master, Little Tian, and the rest of the ancient massacre gods are in that realm." "Madam must have gone to them for help," Roger said hurriedly. Yi Qinghan exhaled, clenched his fists, and asked, "What about Li Feng? Where did he go?" "I don't know. He hasn't appeared since the last time he left the realm. However, when he passed through the dimensional battlefield, he sent a message saying that he'll be back in 3 years to fight you. He wants you to be prepared." Roger's eyes were filled with worry. Li Feng was just too terrifying. Anyone would be terrified if he targeted them. Yi Qinghan, however, was not worried. This battle would come sooner or later. If Li Feng wanted to fight, he wanted to fight even more. Everyone wanted to be the true invincible. Half a month later, Emperor Yi rushed back to the mythical realm with the children and headed straight for Crazy Manor. He even forgot the rules and flew directly above the manor. Emperor Yi flew into the manor. When he found out that Yi Qinghan was fine, he could not help but cry tears of joy. Facing the attack of 3 half-step lords, 30% was luck, 30% was ability, and 30% was Li Feng. This debt of gratitude could not be ignored. A large group of children rushed into the manor. When Yi Chentian saw that Yi Qinghan was fine, he immediately went berserk. He pulled Qin Wentian off his neck and asked, "Dad, where did you get this wife for me?" Chapter 773. The originally oppressive atmosphere was lifted by great god Chen Tian's words. Qin Wentian innocently looked at Yi Qinghan. He didn't understand what wife meant and asked, "What's a wife? Can it be eaten?" Ha ha! A group of young men and women laughed crazily outside the door. Emperor Yi, who was always serious, covered his mouth and laughed secretly. This daughter-in-law was too cute. Yi Chentian rolled his eyes and sat on the edge of the bed powerlessly. He said in annoyance, "How can I, a great god, marry a 4-year-old child? Father, you are trying to ruin my reputation." Yi Qinghan was silent for a moment. He didn't know how to explain it to Yi Chentian, so he said, "You don't understand and I can't explain it to you. In these 15 years, you must accompany her as she grows up. Wherever you go, she will go. Wherever she goes, you will go. You cannot be separated. If you still object after 15 years, I will not force you. 15 years? My God, you mean I have to take care of her for these 15 years? I can't leave her? Yi Chen was anxious. How could his restless heart be restrained by a 4-year-old child? Yes. You can't leave her for the next 15 years. You'll have to personally take care of her. Everything will have to wait for 15 years, when she's officially an adult. Only then will you have the freedom to choose, Yi Qinghan said with certainty. Father, you are too stubborn. In my heart, you are a great hero without any flaws. It's over, it's over. My father's image in my heart has completely collapsed. Yi Chen covered his face and shouted. The people outside laughed. Luo Jie couldn't hold it in anymore and ran out of the room. He pounded the wall and laughed. Tears were about to flow out. You have no choice. If you dare to run away, I will catch you and break your legs, Yi Qinghan said indifferently. Yi Chen was speechless. He looked at Qin Wentian in despair. He couldn't understand why his powerful father would make such a decision. Qin Wentian still didn't understand what wife was. He sat on the bed and looked up at great god Qin Tian's drooping face. He reached out and pinched Qin Tian's nose as if he was coaxing a child. He said, "Children shouldn't frown. You must smile at life, Yi Qin Tian." PSSH, Emperor Yi laughed until his stomach hurt. Now that the danger had passed, he was in a particularly good mood. He looked at Yi Qinghan's pale face and felt his heart ache. He hurriedly waved his hand and said, "All of you can go out. Let father have a good rest. The plane has been dangerous recently. Try not to run around." Yi Chen had no choice but to carry his so-called wife out of the room. Only Emperor Yi and Yi Qinghan were left in the room. The two of them had not seen each other for decades and had almost left each other forever. Their hearts were throbbing. Yi Qinghan looked at Emperor Ye's pained expression and his heart ached even more. He pulled Emperor Yi into his arms and said gently, "My son, you've worked hard. Thank you for all these years. I'm fine. Lie down and tell me what happened to Wentian. Why did you suddenly want to marry her to that brat? His personality is destined to be unstable. I'm afraid it's a little inappropriate for him to have the same personality as you," Emperor Yi asked. "She has the ethereal constitution, one of the 10 great primal chaos constitutions. It is ranked third along with the void constitution and belongs to the lineage of the great demonic god. She has yet to unlock her inherited memories. Now we can either choose to kill her or conquer her. I believe that human emotions can overcome everything. What fate seed? It's nothing," Yi Qinghan said in a low voice. "Then should we tell Qintian?" Emperor Yi frowned and asked. "Don't tell him. I don't want him to do something with a motive, especially when it comes to emotions. Once he has a motive, it will be very difficult for him to truly fall in love with Wentian. If he can fall in love with Wentian when she comes of age, that would be the best." Yi Qinghan shook his head. "But the success rate of this will be very low," Emperor Yi said worriedly. "All love is because of habit. When you get used to each other's existence, it will transform into the most intense love, and finally, kinship." They accompanied each other for 15 years, and Chen Tian took care of her like a child. Wentian enjoyed this feeling, and I believe that the feelings between them will transform into an eternal habit that will last until death. Yi Qinghan looked at Emperor Yi as he smiled. "Just like how you and I will never betray each other." Emperor Yi sighed. However, Wentian wasn't her. She didn't have the fate seed, and there was no barrier between them. Naturally, she would enjoy this kind of care. "Don't worry, I have a backup plan. Even if Wentian is controlled by the fate seed, she won't be able to escape from my grasp. Naturally, I will only use this as a last resort. I'd rather she be able to overcome everything, and not let down my efforts to protect her down." Yi Qinghan confidently said. Emperor Yi was relieved when he heard this. The fact that Yi Qinghan had a backup plan meant that he had already considered the worst-case scenario. There was no need to worry. The 3 half-step lords had failed to kill Yi Qinghan, and in the end, both sides suffered great losses. The Void Spirit Sect's Grand Elder fled immediately and entered the sect's forbidden secret zone to reconstruct his golden body. Without 1,000 years, it was impossible for him to return to peak condition. The sacred Qilin was also slightly injured. He knew that in the mythical realm, Yi Qinghan had the support of the Kingdom of God, and it would be difficult for him to fight alone. In the end, he gave up on the plan to launch a surprise attack on Yi Qinghan. After all, he didn't know whether Li Feng had left the realm or not. If he hadn't and was attacked by Li Feng and Yi Qinghan instead, he would definitely die. The old man from the Z family was still unwilling to give up. Now that he was alone, it was difficult for him to do anything. Whether or not he could kill Yi Qinghan was another matter altogether, let alone snatch Qin Wentian's godhead. A year later, the old man from the Z family appeared in the most powerful realm among the 3,000 middle realms, the Sisui realm. This was the largest realm, and there were even more powerhouses. There were dozens of half-step lords alone, and there were no fewer than 5 who were on par with 9 gloom. A realm like this rarely interacted with other realms. Most powerhouses came here from other realms on a pilgrimage. The Sisui realm's surface area was equivalent to 3,000 times that of the Clear Moon realm and more than 10,000 times that of the mythical realm. The entire surface area of the mythical realm was equivalent to a prefecture in the Sisui realm. There were no kingdoms here, only super sects and clans. Any clan could crush a kingdom from another realm. The buildings from the chaotic era were still preserved here. The aura of chaos permeated the air, and it was comparable to the upper realms. No one knew if there were any lord-level existences hidden here. Such people generally wouldn't appear for no reason. Once they did, they would definitely attract even more powerful existences to fight for the lord-level divine spark. The old man from the Z family went straight to the Tuoba family. The Tuoba family was considered one of the super forces in the Sisui realm. Most importantly, they had a heritage from the chaotic era, and their foundation was unfathomable. No one dared to provoke them. Even if there were existences on par with 9 gloom, they would try their best not to provoke the Tuoba family. The Z family was only a servant sent by the Tuoba family. The Tuoba family had countless servants like the Z family. Some families had left the Tuoba family due to the passage of time. However, there were still dozens of families that were under their control. Chapter 774. The Sisui Plain could only be described as vast. The Tuoba family was considered to be very powerful, but aside from their background, their strength on the surface would at most be ranked in the upper middle tier of the Sisui Plain. The most powerful organization, Ni Yunduan, was so powerful that no one could see its background. No one could shake its position. 30,000 years ago there were still traces of sovereigns. The Qingshan continent of the Sisui realm was one of the 81 continents. It was thousands of times larger than the mythical dimension, but the Tuoba family occupied half of it. The other half was divided equally among several major organizations. The old man from the Z family had gone through a lot of trouble and spent a lot of money to teleport here through a large space gateway. He headed straight for the Tuoba family. The Tuoba family was majestic and ancient. These buildings alone were of great value. Even Elder Ni Yunduan would come here personally to study the mysteries of this place. As an organization that had inherited from the chaos, these buildings were protected by formations. It was difficult to break through without lords. However, the supreme-grade divine crystals required to activate the formations were immeasurable. Therefore, the Tuoba family would not activate the formations usually. Once they were activated, the light would shine so brightly that the entire Qingshan continent could see it clearly. The old man from the Z family encountered a checkpoint outside the Tuoba family. He was stopped by the Tuoba family's city guards. He entered the family's outer perimeter. Without a name, he could not enter. Once someone attacked the outer perimeter and the family could not resist, the inner perimeter would activate the formations. Therefore, no one dared to provoke the Tuoba family. I'm Z Chongyun, the Grand Elder of the Z family from the Qingyue realm. I have an important matter to discuss with the family leader, the old man said in a deep voice. Although he was a half-step lord, the city guard's commander-in-chief did not give him face. He only said calmly, "Wait here." The commander-in-chief signaled a messenger to ask for instructions from the family elders. Soon, a person rushed into the depth. Zi Chongyun did not dare to barge in. He was only a servant of the Tuoba family. At most, he was an outer member. He had to bow when he saw the family's direct descendants. He knew how powerful the Tuoba family was. He also knew that although the Tuoba family was not a top organization in the Chaos era, they were still powerful. An hour later, the messenger rushed back and said softly, "Sir, the third elder wants to see him. And take him to see the third elder. Don't let him barge in recklessly." The commander nodded and said. The messenger led Zi Chongyun to the inner part of the Tuoba family. As they passed by the outer part, Zi Chongyun looked at the outer forces with envy. He couldn't help but be envious. The divinity here was too strong. Even the outer part was comparable to the secret zone of the Z family. It was very suitable for cultivation. Therefore, there were countless masters in the Tuoba family. Even the children were much stronger than their peers in other places. However, the competition here was also extremely cruel. Every year, the children would be tested on their talent and cultivation. Those who were eliminated would be directly transferred to the branch family, and if the branch family discovered a genius, they would immediately be promoted to the direct line. The treatment they enjoyed was unimaginable. Some wore ragged clothes, looking like beggars, while others wore luxurious clothes, looking extremely noble. An hour later, they arrived at the interior. There was a towering wall carved with runes. Like the tomb of the god of sin, it was indestructible. Ordinary siege crossbows had no effect on it at all. With half-step lords as weapons and 100,000 of them, they might be able to break through the defenses here. There were 10 top-level high gods guarding the city gates, and there were mid-level high gods serving as soldiers and high gods serving as officers. This was an impenetrable palace. Zi Chongyun was stunned. In the past, he had only communicated with the peripheral elders of the Tuoba family through voice transmission. He had never been here before. Now, he was completely stunned. This was a true super powerhouse, an unshakable force. They could crush a small or medium dimension with just a finger. With the third elder's message, the guards did not stop them. They allowed the messenger to bring Zi Chongyun into the interior of the family. A chaotic aura of vicissitudes filled the air. The qi here could no longer be described as divine qi. It was completely liquid divine power surging. The palace was intricate and complex. Divine trees and divine herbs were everywhere. There were huge mountains, waterfalls, and everything else. This was a blessed place, not a family force. The young men who walked around were all high god. They were as handsome as jade and peerless elite. The women were unparalleled in their generation. They were the cream of the crop. Zi Chongyun's appearance surprised the young men and women. It was rare for outsiders to enter the family unless they were lords. Even half-step lords found it difficult to enter the inner family territory. Greetings, young masters and princesses. I am the elder of the Z family in Qingyue Dimension. The Z family has been loyal to the Tuoba family for generations. I am here today to meet you. Zi Chongyun bowed. Greetings, young Master Yun, young Master Jian, and Princess Ling. The third elder asked me to bring him into the mysterious dragon pavilion to meet him. The messenger bowed and said, Go ahead. Don't let the third elder wait. Tuoba Yun, who was in the lead, looked like an elegant young master. He was definitely a top powerhouse of the younger generation. Zichongyun saw that the three of them had no intention of communicating with him. He immediately bowed and left. The mysterious dragon pavilion was a courtyard that resembled a tall tower. There were no guards. The gate of the courtyard was wide open. There were many artificial mountains in the courtyard. The divine lotus in the pond was about to transform and leave. However, it was suppressed by the formation and exuded a majestic spiritual aura. Come in. Zichongyun had just arrived when an ancient voice sounded. It made one's hair stand on end. This voice seemed to come from ancient times and was filled with the power of ancient times. The messenger retreated. Zichongyun entered the courtyard respectfully. The door opened automatically. A staircase spiraled upwards as if it led to the dome. He walked all the way to the third floor. The path was sealed. He turned right and saw a door that was engraved with runes. It shone with a golden light. Lord Elder, I, Zichongyun, have important news to report. Zichongyun bowed and said to the door. Whoosh! The door opened automatically again. The divine light was dazzling. An old man was sitting at the door. He had white hair and a celestial aura. He suppressed Zichongyun so much that he did not dare to breathe loudly. Although they were all half-step lords, there were differences in strength as well. For example, Yi Qinghan was able to kill most of the high gods in the High God Temple, but it was difficult for him to shake Li Feng. At every level, there would always be a portion of them who were extraordinary and could not be resisted. I've heard about it from Tuoba Feng. Describe it in detail so that I can confirm whether that child has the legendary battle constitution, Third Elder Tuoba Kwangjuan said in a low voice. That child can disappear into thin air and pass through wooden doors. She can even hold a speeding sword in her hand without moving. Moreover, she has no cultivation base at all. This is shocking. Zichongyun bowed and replied. Where's that child now? You're a half-step lord. Can't you even get a child? Tuoba Kwangjuan stood up slowly. He was about 1.8 meters tall and looked dignified. His ancient divine robe fluttered without wind. He looked directly at Zichongyun, and the latter dared not look up. She has a young powerhouse protecting her. I was about to succeed, but another supreme god broke through in the mythical realm. That supreme god's aura was so terrifying that it shook heaven and earth. A giant dragon coiled, and a godly phoenix was willing to be its mount. The 7 godhoods could leave the sea of consciousness and turn into swords. He attacked so forcefully that I had no choice. Zichongyun hurriedly explained. He bowed and his legs were trembling. It was obvious that he was afraid of Tuoba Kwangjuan. Chapter 775. Tuoba Kwangjuan looked down at Zichongyun with a hint of disdain at the corner of his lip. He had lived for so long, but this was the first time he had heard of a half-step lord being scared off by a young man who had just broken through to High God. What a joke. You're saying that the 3 of you half-step lords couldn't take down 2 beginner-stage upper-rank priests, and that one of you was severely injured by a young man while the other 2 suffered minor injuries? Tuoba Kwangjuan did not believe it. Any half-step lord would not believe it unless Yi Qinghan and Li Feng had the legendary 10 combat constitutions. Perhaps they stood a chance. Yes. No. That Yi Qinghan used some strange secret method to borrow the power of countless living beings in the entire kingdom. His aura is comparable to a half-step lord's. That's why we couldn't take him down even when we joined forces. Moreover, he has the blood of the colossal dragon and possibly the inheritance of the witch tribe. Zi Chongyun forced a smile, not daring to refute. How interesting. Someone can mobilize force in such a small realm. The blood of the colossal dragon, the inheritance of the witch tribe, the 5 elemental Tao body. The bloodline of the chaos giant god that has disappeared for a long time is all in one person. How interesting. I'm intrigued. However, I don't understand. Why would the blood of the colossal dragon and the inheritance of the witch tribe protect the ethereal spirit constitution? What went wrong? Tuoba Kwangjuan tapped the stone table with his fingertip. His white hair fluttered as he lifted his head and walked to the window to look at the starry sky. His eyes pierced through the void. Even though it was daytime, he could see the sun, moon, and stars. Zi Chongyun dared not disrupt Tuoba Kwangjuan's thoughts. He bowed and dared not say anything. Go down and wait. I'll get the young disciples of the Tuoba family to accompany you to summon Yi Qinghan and Qin Wentian. If they're not convinced, capture them alive. You're in charge of leading the way. There must be no mistakes this time, understand? Tuoba Kwangjuan said in a low voice. Yes, my lord. This old servant will definitely not let Yi Qinghan escape again. Zi Chongyun vowed solemnly. No need. You just have to lead the way. Someone from the Tuoba family will deal with Yi Qinghan, Tuoba Kwangjuan said coldly. In the mythological dimension, Yi Qinghan had already recovered. His family was living in harmony. He looked at the group of juniors and carefully guided them. Heavenly deity Chen Tian's temper was beaten up by Yi Qinghan, causing him to become much more obedient. Every day, he would bring his wife around and sigh. When he thought of how dark his days would be in the future, heavenly deity Chen Tian no longer referred to himself as heavenly deity Chen Tian. His hairstyle was messed up and he became the laughing stock of his children. On this day, Qin Wentian rode on Yi Qingtian's neck. At this moment, she finally understood what a wife was. Being a child at heart, she didn't care about so many things. She was playful and clung to him all day long. Time passed slowly, and in the blink of an eye, she was already 6 years old. Yi Qinghan was enjoying the bliss of being with his family. He was also bitterly cultivating as he waited for Li Feng's 3-year agreement. There was only 1 year left. However, before the appointment with Li Feng could be made, Zi Chongyun had brought the 4 top-notch young masters of the Tuoba family to the mythical dimension. Tuoba Yun, Tuoba Iguang and Tuoba Su were all outstanding male disciples of the Tuoba family. They were all ranked within the top 10. The other female cultivator, Tuoba Xianxian, wielded an elegant divine sword in her hand. Every step she took was 1,000 miles away, traversing tens of dimensions. She didn't seem tired at all. From this, one could see how high her cultivation base was. The most important thing was that Tuoba Yun and the others actually treated Tuoba Xianxian as their leader. Before they did anything, they would always seek her opinion. Her strength was probably the strongest among the 4 of them. Sister Xianxian, which one of us will make a move later? Why don't you let me make the first move? If you make a move, we won't have a chance. Tuoba Yun smiled. Tuoba Xianxian was about 1.7 meters tall. She wore a man's battle robe and looked valiant. She was even more handsome than the men. Her hair was tied up high, making her look like a swift and decisive person. Her cherry lips revealed a faint smile as she nodded and said, "Summon him first. If he knows what's good for him, he won't make a move. If he doesn't agree, you guys can train first." The 5 experts entered the grand desert dimension and entered the planar battlefield. Their whereabouts were quickly transmitted to the crazed manor. Yi Qinghan looked at the message on the message talisman and frowned. The middle dimension was so vast. There were 3,000 of them. There were many powerful clans and sections. What was a mythical dimension to them? It was normal for a few experts to appear. All pass lords, immediately seal off all the gateways. Yi Qinghan transmitted his voice. The lords at the gateways all activated their defensive barriers and prepared for battle. When Yi Chentian saw Yi Qinghan's serious expression, he knew that his chance had come. He said, "Father, if there's anything you need great god Chentian to do, just tell me. Put Wentian down and follow me out to meet the enemy," Yi Qinghan said calmly. "Ha ha, I was waiting for you to say that." Great god Chentian was overjoyed. He had finally gotten rid of this child. He hurriedly pulled Qin Wentian down from his neck and said solemnly, "Little wife, your husband is going out to fight. Wait for me at home." "I'll be back in 3 to 5 years if I'm fast, or 10 years if I'm slow." Qin Wentian curled his lips and said disdainfully, "Do you think I'm a 3-year-old child? Uncle said that we're going out to meet the enemy, but he didn't ask you to leave the middle dimension. Come back tomorrow and don't think about running around." Yi Chentian was speechless. Yi Qinghan shook his head and called Di Longtian and Lin Wutian over. Now that all the experts of the inner sect had gone out, they could only rely on the help of these 3 juniors. Emperor Yi also followed. Now there were only 4 high gods in the inner sect. However, their strength was not inferior to the older generation. Lin Wutian had inherited Gu Qingyu's legacy, Di Longtian had the heavenly Tao killing god sword, Yi Chentian had inherited Yi Qinghan's legacy, and his talent was shocking. As for the remaining Emperor Yi, his strength was needless to say. The 4 of them headed towards Yayang Pass. That was the only way to get to Quang Manor from the planar battlefield. An hour later, the 4 of them appeared on the walls of Yayang Pass. They looked ahead and waited for Zi Chongyun to arrive. In less than the time it took for 3 incense sticks to burn, Zi Chongyun brought Tuoba Xianxian and the others to Yayang Pass. Yi Chentian's battle-intent soared. He could finally vent the anger that he had suppressed for 2 years. Yi Qinghan, these 4 are the inner disciples of the Tuoba family from Sisui realm. They are here on the orders of the Tuoba family's 3rd elder to summon you. You may not know the Tuoba family, but you can ask the older generation of high gods. They will tell you their identities, Zi Chongyun said proudly. Summon him? Yi Qinghan was disdainful. Even the emperor would not allow him to summon him. The so-called Tuoba family only sent a few juniors to summon him. They thought too highly of themselves. Have you lost your mind from the beating? How can I, great god Chentian's father, allow others to summon him? What bullshit 3rd elder? Ask him to come and see my father. Yi Chentian said majestically and angrily. You are courting death. Tuoba Yun's aura changed as he said coldly. Whether I am courting death or not, you will know once you try. I will beat you until your own mother can't recognize you. Yi Chentian flew down the wall and landed at the gate. He walked towards the 4 people step by step. Yi Qinghan did not say anything to stop him. He believed in Yi Chentian's strength and knew that he wanted to vent his anger. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.